Welcome to the Big Five Personality Traits, Unlocking Your Potential and Understanding Yourself, brought to you by Mindful Literary. This audiobook is a journey into the fascinating world of personality psychology, where we explore the foundational aspects that shape who we are. The Big Five Personality Traits, openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, offer a comprehensive framework for understanding our behaviors, emotions, and interactions with the world. Have you ever wondered why some people are more adventurous while others prefer stability? Or why certain individuals thrive in social settings while others find solace in solitude? The answers lie within the Big Five Personality Traits. In this audiobook, we delve into each trait, unraveling their complexities and how they manifest in our daily lives. Through personal anecdotes, real-life examples, and scientific insights, we aim to provide you with a deeper understanding of your own personality and the personalities of those around you. This knowledge can lead to greater self-awareness, improved relationships, and enhanced personal growth. As we embark on this journey together, you will discover how to harness the power of your unique traits, overcome challenges, and unlock your true potential. Whether you are seeking to better understand yourself, improve your relationships, or excel in your professional life, this audiobook will serve as a valuable guide. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery and personal development. Let's begin our exploration of the Big Five personality traits and unlock the doors to a more fulfilling and empowered life. Chapter 1. Introduction to the Big Five Personality. Understanding the Big Five Personality Model. I've often found myself at parties, not because I'm particularly sociable, but because I was curious about people. I've always wondered why some of us stand in the corner observing, while others dive headfirst into vibrant conversations. This quest to understand human behavior led me to the fascinating realm of psychology, and more specifically, to the Big Five personality traits. My first encounter with the Big Five was like opening a door to a room I never knew existed. It felt like finally having the vocabulary to describe the complex dance that is human personality. The Big Five encompass openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Each trait is a spectrum, and together, they paint a nuanced picture of who we are. Openness, the first of the traits, deals with our willingness to embrace new experiences and ideas. People high in openness tend to be imaginative, curious, and open-minded. They thrive on creativity and often challenge the status quo. On the other end of the spectrum, low openness might manifest as practical, conventional, and resistant to change. It reminded me of my friend Lucy, an artist with a flair for the abstract, always experimenting with new forms without hesitation. Conscientiousness is the second trait, and it measures our tendency to be organized, dependable, and disciplined. High conscientiousness means high standards, meticulousness, and a focus on duty. It's the trait you see in those who always seem to have their ducks in a row, balancing work, relationships, and hobbies with ease. However, low conscientiousness can lead to spontaneity, flexibility, but sometimes chaos. My roommate, Alex, with her color-coded planner and unwavering routines, exemplified high conscientiousness. Next came extraversion, a trait I was intimately familiar with, given my social experiments at parties. Extraversion quantifies our energy levels, particularly in social situations. Extroverts draw energy from interactions, thriving in busy environments, while introverts find solace in solitude, recharging in quieter settings. My habit of initiating deep conversations with strangers often puzzled my introverted friend Mike, who preferred observing the world from the sidelines. Agreeableness was a trait that seemed universal yet diversely expressed. High agreeableness is reflected in compassionate, cooperative, and trusting behavior. These individuals value harmony and are typically well-liked. Conversely, low agreeableness might come off as competitive, critical, or even manipulative, not necessarily out of malice but perhaps a focus on self-interest. This brought me to think about Lana, whose empathetic nature made everyone feel valued. Finally, there's neuroticism, the trait associated with emotional stability. High neuroticism often means a higher susceptibility to stress, anxiety, and mood swings, while low neuroticism translates to calmness, resilience, and emotional balance. It's neither good nor bad, but defines how we handle life's ups and downs. Tom, the steadfast rock in our group, seemed unshakable, illustrating a low neuroticism personality. What amazed me was how these traits were scientifically validated. Researchers like Costa and McRae, using rigorous factor analysis, confirmed the reliability and consistency of these traits across cultures and age groups. Whether through self-report surveys, peer reviews, or observational studies, the Big Five stood robust, offering a reliable map to the human psyche. This chapter isn't just academic. It's personal. Every new understanding brought me closer to comprehending my own behaviors and those of the people I loved. The Big Five provided a framework, a mirror reflecting the intricacies of our personalities. Maybe that's why, at the next party, I found myself conversing with greater empathy, curiosity, and clarity. My first encounter with the Big Five personality traits. It was one of those unusually reflective Sundays when I found myself flipping through the channels, searching for something to fill the quiet void in my apartment. The air was thick with a grandmotherly warmth, sun rays filtering through the curtains, softly illuminating the dust particles that dance in mid-air. Suddenly, a documentary caught my eye. A psychologist was explaining a model that appeared to quantify human behavior with a surprising level of accuracy. The words Big Five personality traits flashed across the screen in bold text. Curiosity intrigued me. I couldn't help but lean closer, allowing my half-interest to evolve into full-fledged fascination. The psychologist discussed 5 distinct dimensions of personality: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Something about the structure and clarity of the Big Five model resonated deeply within me, as if I had stumbled upon a treasure map to human nature, a guide that promised to unravel the complexities of who we really are. That night, I could barely sleep. My dreams were a tumultuous mix of personalities, scenarios, and theories. Each trait seemed like a shimmering thread, weaving together the fabric of our identity. Armed with a fervent need to understand, I chose to delve deeper into the realm of personality psychology. Perhaps it was the idea of having a scientific framework to explain why we behave the way we do that piqued my interest, or maybe it was the allure of decoding not just others, but myself too. Over the next few weeks, I immersed myself in academic papers, online courses, and even a few late-night conversations with friends who were studying psychology. The Big Five model became a lens through which I started to view the world and the people around me, offering fascinating insights that were both enlightening and, in some cases, uncomfortably revealing. But the more I learned, the more questions I had. It seemed that every answer was merely a gateway to another layer of complexity, each revelation pulling me further into an intellectual abyss that I found increasingly rewarding. The impact of personality on everyday life. The morning sun cast a soft glow across my room, and even though I'd barely opened my eyes, I could already sense the different ways personality traits would shape my day. When people ask about the impact of personality on everyday life, they often don't grasp how profound and intricate that influence can be. I didn't either, until I started paying attention. Take the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Each one acts like a lens, coloring our perceptions and decisions. For instance, my friend Sarah, who scores high on openness, spent her morning browsing through recipes for exotic dishes. Later, she mentioned how it wasn't just about cooking but exploring new cultures and ideas. To her, breakfast was an adventure. In contrast, Jake, ever the conscientious planner, had already laid out his meticulous schedule for the day, each task allocated its specific time slot. Life for him is a series of check marks and accomplishments. As I got ready and headed out the door, I found myself reflecting on my own mix of traits. I consider myself an introvert, appreciating quiet moments and introspective talks far more than loud parties. I once dreaded this tendency, thinking it a weakness. But through observing others, I learned how my inclination toward solitude granted me a deep well of creativity. Walking to the bus stop, I often craft entire stories in my mind, the unseen worlds teeming with life, born from my daydreams. On the bus, I watched Jack, an extrovert if ever there was one, strike up a conversation with the driver. Within minutes, he had the whole bus animatedly discussing last night's game. I'd always envied his ease with people, his knack for igniting laughter and enthusiasm. But there's a flip side to every coin. Jack often finds silence unbearable, while for me, it's a sanctuary. But it's not just about how we interact with others or what kind of activities we enjoy. Personality shapes decisions in ways that ripple out to our overall life satisfaction. For example, my colleague Annabelle, low in neuroticism, seldom dwells on setbacks. She rolls with the punches, and her laid-back approach often baffles me. Where I might agonize over a criticism, she shrugs it off as a stepping stone. The nuances of these traits came into sharp focus one afternoon, while working on a collaborative project. We had a mixed group, high in extraversion and openness, low in agreeableness, and everywhere in between. The clashing and harmonizing of our traits created a dynamic that was as thrilling as it was challenging. Even in moments of tension, watching how each personality played its part was like observing a complex dance. By the time I returned home, I had a new appreciation for the ways personality informs daily life. It's a silent guide, nudging us toward certain choices, interactions, and even emotional responses. Recognizing and understanding these traits in myself and others has made everyday life richer and more nuanced. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but think about the countless other moments where personality silently steers the course of our lives, each decision a testament to the intricate tapestry of who we are. Chapter 2: Openness to Experience. Exploring the trait of openness. From a young age, I always found myself drawn to the unfamiliar. Whether it was the peculiar melodies of an obscure music genre or the tantalizing mysteries hidden in the plots of ancient myths, an inward fire compelled me towards new experiences and ideas. This quest for novelty is what psychologists often refer to as the trait of openness, one of the 5 major dimensions of personality. Openness encompasses a breadth of facets, including imagination, aesthetic sensitivity, attentiveness to inner feelings, preference for variety, and intellectual curiosity. People high in this trait tend to be more adventurous in both their thoughts and experiences, frequently seeking out the unusual and the innovative. For me, it wasn't about just gathering fresh experiences. It was a way of seeing the world in vivid technicolor, where boundaries blurred and possibilities seemed endless. One of the significant benefits of being open is the enhanced ability for creative thinking. In elementary school, while others played on the swings or traded baseball cards, I was sketching strange creatures in my notebook, creating convoluted storylines that defied the conventional. It wasn't just a child's escape from reality. It was an early manifestation of divergent thinking. Openness propels individuals to consider multiple perspectives and solutions, where others might see only a single, well-trodden path. Openness also fosters intellectual curiosity. It's the trait that sends you down rabbit holes of Wikipedia pages late at night, diving into topics as disparate as quantum physics and surrealist art. In high school, this intellectual curiosity led me to the philosophy club meetings on Tuesday afternoons. It wasn't required or graded, yet the allure of questioning reality, existence, and ethics was too tempting to ignore. However, this isn't to say that being open hadn't posed its challenges. I often felt misunderstood by peers who preferred routine and familiarity. My eagerness to explore multiple viewpoints sometimes made me appear indecisive or somewhat disconnected. But the thirst for novelty and the constant craving for knowledge far outweighed the occasional feelings of isolation. In college, I majored in comparative literature, a discipline that epitomized the very essence of openness. Imagine spending semesters delving into texts from different cultures, each with its philosophy, worldview, and aesthetics. This academic choice wasn't purely for scholarly pursuit, it was a gateway to enriching the mind and spirit. As I navigated through the professional world, this trait continued to shape my journey. The conventional career paths felt restrictive, almost claustrophobic. Instead, I found myself thriving in startups and creative industries, where innovation wasn't just encouraged but expected. Here, the ability to think outside the box wasn't just valued, it was vital. Interestingly, the deeper I explored this trait within myself, the more I recognized it in others. Artists, musicians, writers, and even certain entrepreneurs share this inherent characteristic. It's a shared understanding that draws us into conversations that range from the latest technological advancements to the timeless beauty of a Renaissance painting. This mutual recognition creates a tapestry of interconnected ideas and innovations, each thread contributing to a broader spectrum of human experience. Yet, as I settled into the rhythm of this inclination, an unsettling thought began to creep in. Was there a limit to this openness? Could the boundless curiosity eventually lead to a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, always yearning for the next novel experience, yet never fully appreciating the present? This question gnawed at me with increasing intensity, setting the stage for an exploration far deeper and more complex than I had initially anticipated. Embracing new experiences. Life often presents us with opportunities that at first glance seem daunting, yet these moments hold the potential to mold us in ways we never imagined. I remember my first solo trip abroad, an adventure that began with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As the plane landed, a wave of uncertainty washed over me. Could I navigate this foreign land by myself? Would I make friends, or spend lonely nights in my hotel room? The first hurdle came almost immediately. At the airport, I had to negotiate a taxi fare in a language I barely spoke. With some awkward gesturing and my phrasebook in hand, I managed to secure a ride. As we wove through the bustling streets, my nervousness began to ebb, replaced by fascination. The vibrant markets, the clamor of unfamiliar sounds, and the tantalizing aroma of street food, everything felt surreal. I realized that letting go of my usual comforts was opening my eyes to a world richer than I had ever known. The real transformation happened when I attended a local festival purely on a whim. I remember standing on the crowded street, my senses overwhelmed by the colors and music. A kind local couple noticed my wide-eyed awe and invited me to join their family for the celebration. That night, sharing stories and laughter, I felt an incredible sense of belonging. Despite our different backgrounds, we found common ground in our shared humanity. This experience taught me the importance of fostering openness. When we embrace the unfamiliar, we not only learn about the world around us, but also discover hidden facets of ourselves. For me, that trip became a turning point. I became more adventurous and willing to step outside my comfort zone. These small acts of courage snowballed, leading me to volunteer for projects in remote areas, learn new languages, and try hobbies that I never would have considered before. As I look back, I can trace my personal growth to these moments of embracing new experiences. They have not only enriched my life, but also broadened my perspective, making me more empathetic and resilient. Each new experience, no matter how small, has contributed to shaping the person I am today. And while the initial leap often feels the scariest, it is always worth it in the end. Challenging my comfort zone. There comes a point in everyone's life when the walls that once seemed impenetrable start closing in, and the need to break free becomes impossible to ignore. For me, this moment struck like an unexpected storm, rattling the very foundation of my comfort zone. I remember it vividly. I had just turned 30 and felt an inexplicable restlessness. My life was comfortable, predictably so, but something deep within me whispered that I was capable of more. Encouraged by this growing unease, I decided to embark on a journey that would challenge every safe harbor I had ever known. It started small, accepting a solo hiking trip in the Rockies, something far removed from my urban, desk-bound existence. The first mile was invigorating, the air fresher than any I'd ever breathed, but with each step further into the wilderness, anxiety clawed at my resolve. What if I got lost? What if I got injured? These thoughts were like ghosts haunting my mind, yet I trudged on, each step a rebellion against the comfort I'd confined myself to. Surprisingly, the wilderness offered clarity. The stillness around me mirrored a calm I hadn't felt in years, and as strange as it sounds, the absence of civilization made room for a more profound sense of self to emerge. I started to see patterns in my life where fear had held me back, not just in grand, adventurous undertakings, but in everyday interactions and decisions. My openness, a trait I had always considered theoretical and abstract, began to manifest in the most tangible ways. I found myself more willing to take risks, to engage with new ideas and people, allowing experiences to shape me rather than shying away from them. The most significant lesson from stepping out of my comfort zone was learning to embrace discomfort as a catalyst for growth. When I returned from that hike, both physically exhausted and emotionally enriched, I realized the importance of continually pushing boundaries. This newfound courage didn't fade with the aching muscles. It persisted, propelling me to take further steps that led to a job change, pursuing creative passions, and even mending strained relationships. As the years rolled on, I made a pact with myself, to never let the comfort zone define the limits of my experiences. It's funny how what I feared most, uncertainty and vulnerability, became the very elements that fueled a more fulfilling life. Each challenge conquered made the subsequent ones less daunting. The once intimidating idea of being open to life's unpredictability transformed into a core principle guiding me towards richer, more diverse experiences. Now as I stand on the precipice of yet another challenge, I carry with me not just the lessons learned but the confidence that whatever lies beyond this new frontier, I have the resilience forged from every step taken outside my comfort zone. And with that thought, I inhale deeply, ready to dive into the unknown once again. Chapter 3. Conscientiousness. The role of conscientiousness in success. As I sit at my cluttered desk, littered with half-finished drafts and notebooks brimming with ideas, I can't help but reminisce about a time when my life wasn't governed by so much order. I've come a long way from the chaotic mess I used to be, and I owe it all to the one trait that, once embraced, changed everything: conscientiousness. In a world where talent and luck often steal the spotlight, it's conscientiousness that quietly stands as the cornerstone of true success. When I was younger, discipline was a foreign concept. I'd start projects with fervor, only to abandon them halfway through. My dreams were lofty, but my follow-through was abysmal. Then, one day, I hit rock bottom. I'd missed yet another deadline, and the opportunity slipped through my fingers. That was my wake-up call. It became clear that raw talent wasn't enough. I needed to harness the power of conscientiousness. Being conscientious is more than just tidying up your workspace or organizing your calendar. It's about forming habits that foster accountability. I began setting small, manageable goals that slowly built my self-discipline. Each day, I committed to writing just a handful of pages, no matter how uninspired I felt. This consistency, while born from a place of meticulous intent, soon became the bedrock of my creative output. Maintaining this level of discipline revealed long-term benefits I hadn't anticipated. Not only did I become more reliable to those around me, but my confidence blossomed. The anxiety of looming deadlines dissipated because, for once, I was prepared. My newfound conscientiousness spilled over into other areas of my life, strengthening relationships and opening doors I once thought forever closed. I vividly recall the first time a publisher acknowledged the quality and consistency of my work. It was not just the content that impressed them, but my reliability and dedication. In the creative world, where unpredictability often reigns, being seen as someone dependable was my golden ticket. My organized approach, born from a disciplined mind, earned me trust and respect I had only dreamed of before. As time passed, I noticed the ripple effect conscientiousness had on my professional network. Colleagues and collaborators began to seek my input, valuing not just my creative insights, but also my structured approach. The more conscientious I became, the more opportunities presented themselves. It was as if the universe finally recognized my efforts and began to reward them in kind. But the journey didn't stop there. With my focus sharpened, I tackled increasingly complex projects that once seemed unattainable. The discipline I cultivated served as a guiding light, steering me through even the most daunting challenges. Each small victory reinforced my resolve, creating a positive feedback loop that propelled me forward. Now, as I stare at the organized chaos of my workspace, I realize that conscientiousness isn't just about being neat and tidy. It's about committing to a higher standard, both for oneself and one's craft. It's about showing up every day, ready to face the grind, knowing that each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goals. It's a mindset that, once adopted, paves the way for limitless potential. Reflecting on my transformative journey, I understand that conscientiousness is the unsung hero of success. It may not be as glamorous as raw talent or serendipitous luck, but it's the steady force that ensures those sparks of brilliance are nurtured and brought to fruition. Through diligence and unwavering commitment, I've carved a path that not only leads to success, but also to a more fulfilling and balanced life. Facing challenges with conscientiousness. Life has a curious way of teaching us lessons, often through the most unexpected trials. I've always found myself grappling with obstacles, each more formidable than the last. My journey began in the bustling streets of New York, where dreams intertwine with the relentless hustle of everyday life. As a young professional trying to carve a niche, I faced numerous hurdles, from missed opportunities to the ever-looming threat of failure. I recall a particular project that seemed insurmountable at first glance. Entrusted with leading a team on a critical assignment, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Tight deadlines, limited resources, and the pressure of expectations weighed heavily on my shoulders. Yet, it was in these moments of intense adversity that I found the true essence of conscientious behavior. I meticulously planned every step, ensuring no detail was overlooked. This wasn't just about achieving success, but about understanding the value of persistence and resilience. What kept me grounded was the unwavering belief in a methodical approach. Every setback was an opportunity to refine our strategies. When our initial plans fell through, I encouraged my team to view it not as a failure, but as a lesson. We reassessed, recalibrated, and forged ahead with renewed vigor. The sheer dedication to seeing things through, despite the challenges, brought us closer as a unit. We learned to trust one another, to lean on the collective strength that conscientious behavior fostered. Persistence, as I soon understood, was a muscle that grew with each repeated strain. There were days filled with doubt, where the end seemed tantalizingly out of reach. But with every conquered obstacle, my resolve strengthened. It wasn't just about achieving the goal, but about the transformative journey that molded me into a more resilient individual. This conscientious pursuit illuminated the path ahead, casting a hopeful light on even the darkest moments. Through these experiences, I garnered invaluable insights into the power of precision and diligence. Facing adversities head-on, I realized that true growth is anchored in our ability to persist with unwavering meticulousness. Embracing conscientious behavior doesn't just guide us through challenges, it carves resilience into our very being. Developing a strong work ethic. The crisp mornings of my early career were a blur of frenzied activity. It wasn't just the hurried commutes or the ceaseless meetings, it was an internal whirlwind. While others seemed to float effortlessly, I often found myself grounded by self-doubt. My professional life was a seesaw of high expectations and missed opportunities. I decided things had to change. Thus, began my exploration into the art of developing a strong work ethic. Conscientiousness was my anchor. I read articles, devoured self-help books, and watched countless seminars. Conscientiousness, a trait characterized by thoroughness, organization, and dependability, stood out among the tips and tricks. It was like discovering an overlooked muscle in my psychological toolkit, waiting to be flexed. I began to outline my tasks every morning meticulously. There was something incredibly empowering about checking tasks off a list, each strikeout a testament to my abilities. I remember the transformation vividly. I invested in a planner and dedicated evenings to prepare for the next day. Each entry wasn't just a reminder, but a commitment to myself. It meant sacrificing late-night TV binges for early bedtimes, trading weekend lounging for further skill honing. Progress was gradual. I failed, stumbled, and sometimes reverted. But every stumble turned into a lesson, every failure an opportunity to refine my tactics. The realization that conscientiousness was more than just about sticking to a schedule hit me like a revelation. It was about cultivating reliability, both to myself and to others. I volunteered for challenging projects, not because I was the best, but because I was determined to see them through with unwavering dedication. Slowly, the label of dependable began to stick. Colleagues noticed my diligence. They began entrusting me with responsibilities that were once beyond my reach. The positive impacts on my professional life were palpable. I began receiving recognition, not only in the form of commendations, but through the trust and respect of my peers. My work became more meaningful, each day propelled by a deep-seated sense of purpose. The projects were still daunting, the tasks still numerous, but my growing conscientiousness shielded me against the chaos. Confidence replaced self-doubt, and opportunities which once seemed elusive became attainable. The pinnacle moment came during an ambitious project that was sinking under its weight. Deadlines were missed, and morale was plummeting. I immersed myself in the chaos, restructured priorities, and became the linchpin for my team. Nights bled into early mornings, but we slowly turned the tide. When the project concluded successfully, the satisfaction was twofold. It wasn't just a career milestone, it was a testament to the steadfast work ethic I had nurtured. Chapter 4: Extraversion. Embracing social interactions. I've always been fascinated by the way people interact. Watching extroverts effortlessly light up a room, their laughter blending with the ambient hum of conversation, often felt like witnessing a masterclass in social navigation. Think of that one friend who never seems to run out of things to say, always ready with a perfect anecdote or witty comeback. For a long time, I believed that social charisma was an innate gift, one you either had or didn't. But the more I dived into the world of social interactions, the clearer it became. Extroversion is as much a skill as it is a personality trait. Take, for instance, my friend Thomas. He's the textbook extrovert, always the life of the party, always in the thick of things. Watching him navigate social settings is like witnessing an artist at work. He has a way of making everyone feel seen, heard, and valued. He's never fazed by unfamiliar faces or awkward silences. His secret? Genuine interest and a compelling presence. Thomas thrives on social energy, and it's a two-way street. He gives and receives in equal measure, creating a ripple effect of positivity and engagement. That's not to say introverts are doomed to stay in the shadows. On the contrary, introverts often possess a depth of feeling and observation that can enrich their social interactions in unique ways. I remember Laura, an introverted friend, who once confessed her struggles with social anxiety. We'd sit and talk for hours, breaking down the architecture of small talk, meaningful conversations, and everything in between. Laura's approach was methodical and deeply introspective. She didn't seek to become an extrovert, but rather aimed to enhance her interactions in a way that felt authentic to her. She started small, practicing with close friends and family, pushing herself to initiate conversations in low-stakes environments like cafes or community events. It was like watching a budding musician practice scales, each note bringing her closer to a symphony of effortless dialogue. Over time, Laura's growth was apparent. She might not steal the spotlight like Thomas, but her conversations were always meaningful, leaving lasting impressions on those she interacted with. Understanding the benefits of social interactions, beyond mere networking, was a pivotal realization for both Laura and me. These interactions build a support network, foster connections, and even bolster mental health. Extroversion, at its core, is about building bridges between individuals, creating a tapestry of shared human experience. And while extroverts might weave those threads with vibrant colors, introverts add layers of nuance and texture that are equally invaluable. Through my journey, I learned that embracing social interactions isn't about changing who you are, but enhancing how you connect with others. Whether you're an extrovert who thrives on social energy or an introvert who prefers meaningful connections, there's a world of possibility in the art of interaction. It's a dance, sometimes complicated, often messy, but always worth the effort. So, why not take that first step onto the dance floor? You might be surprised at how natural it can feel. Finding balance as an extrovert. The first time I realized I was genuinely different from my introverted friends was in college. While they found solace in quiet study corners, I thrived in the buzz of the crowded cafeteria. Engaging in debates, making new friends, and just being part of the social fabric rejuvenated me. Yet, as the days stretched into endless hours of commotion, I began to feel a strange kind of fatigue. It wasn't physical, it was something deeper, a sense of losing myself in the myriad of voices and faces. Finding that balance, I discovered, was like walking a tightrope suspended over a chaotic sea. On one side lay the allure of constant social interaction, parties, study groups, and spontaneous outings. On the other side was an uncharted territory I hadn't ventured into often: solitude. For someone like me, isolation wasn't just uncomfortable, it was daunting. But I knew I needed to find a middle ground to maintain my sanity. One evening, after a particularly exhausting social gathering, I locked my dorm room door and sat quietly by the window. The quiet felt almost deafening. Yet, as minutes turned into an hour, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I started picking up hobbies that I had neglected: reading, sketching, and even meditating. Ironically, it was in those solitary pursuits that I rediscovered parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. Maintaining healthy relationships was another challenge. Being an extrovert, I often overwhelmed my introverted friends with my constant need for social interaction. Over time, I learned to respect their boundaries and pace myself. It wasn't easy. The temptation to call on them for every little thing was strong. Still, I started scheduling me time and social time, ensuring neither aspect of my life overshadowed the other. As the year went by, I noticed a remarkable change in how I approached life. I became more attuned to my needs and the needs of those around me. I cherished social gatherings, but equally valued my moments of solitude. This newfound balance didn't just make me a better friend, it also made me a more grounded individual. Now, I navigate life with a deeper understanding of both worlds, knowing that true balance lies in harmonizing my inner extrovert with my newfound appreciation for solitude. The power of networking. It was early in my career when I first understood the true power of networking. I had just joined an emerging tech company, eager and ambitious, but completely clueless about the broader landscape of my field. One afternoon, a colleague named Sarah invited me to a local industry meetup. Reluctant at first, I decided to step out of my comfort zone and attend. Little did I know that night would change everything. The meetup was buzzing with energy, filled with professionals from various tech backgrounds. Nervously clutching my cup of punch, I wandered around, trying to strike up conversations. I met a programmer who shared insights about a coding issue I'd been struggling with, a marketer who opened my eyes to new promotional strategies, and even a potential client intrigued by my company's latest project. As the evening drew to a close, Sarah introduced me to a veteran in the industry, Richard. We hit it off immediately, exchanging stories about our career journeys. Richard became an invaluable mentor to me, guiding me through complex career decisions, providing introductions to key players, and most importantly, helping me to understand the nuances of our fast-paced industry. This initial leap into networking yielded immediate benefits. The coding tip I received helped me resolve an ongoing issue at work, showcasing my capability to my team. The marketing strategies I learned helped boost a campaign's success, earning me recognition. And the potential client? They eventually became a pivotal business partner for us. From that point on, networking became an integral part of my professional strategy. I attended conferences, joined online forums, and consistently nurtured relationships within my industry. Each connection brought its own set of opportunities, whether it was a new job offer, collaboration, or simply knowledge sharing. The more I engaged, the more I grew, both personally and professionally. Years passed, and the benefits of my extensive network continued to unfold. When I decided to step out and start my own company, my network was my greatest asset. They provided the initial funding, the early customer base, and the unyielding support that got me through the rocky startup phase. Looking back, I realized that every significant move in my career was backed by a strong network. It's not just about knowing people, it's about building genuine relationships based on trust, respect, and mutual benefit. Networking is indeed an investment, one that compounds in value over time. It's the bridges we build, the connections we foster, and the collective strength of these relationships that propel us toward success. Now, as I mentor others, I emphasize the importance of networking. It's a transformative tool that can open doors you didn't even know existed. Whether you're starting out or seeking to advance further, never underestimate the power of the people around you. Engage, connect, and build your world one relationship at a time. And sometimes, the most incredible opportunities come from the most unexpected connections. Chapter 5: Agreeableness. Navigating relationships with agreeableness. I often find myself reflecting on the daily exchanges that make up the tapestry of my relationships. For instance, there's my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, who always waves enthusiastically from her garden. Her kind eyes and warm smile set the tone for our peaceful coexistence. Then there's Jenna, my colleague, whose collaborative spirit makes even the most challenging projects manageable. Recognizing and embracing the trait of agreeableness in myself and those around me has truly been a transformative experience. Agreeableness, much like a soft-spoken mediator in a heated discussion, has the capacity to smooth over the roughest edges. It became evident early in my life that my natural inclination toward empathy and cooperation shaped how I interacted with the world. From childhood friendships to professional environments, that sense of understanding and willingness to find common ground became my compass. It's not about avoiding conflict or sacrificing one's own needs, but about genuine engagement and fostering a space where everyone feels heard. Take the small yet impactful incident with my best friend, Leo. Our disagreements were seldom and minor, often settled with a heartfelt conversation. I remember one particularly tense evening when our differing opinions on a business idea almost drove a wedge between us. However, instead of digging in our heels, we each took a step back, choosing to listen rather than argue. That act of mutual agreeableness turned what could have been a regrettable fallout into a lesson in respectful discourse. It solidified our bond and deepened our mutual respect. Of course, it's essential to balance agreeableness with assertiveness. There were moments in my past where my desire to maintain harmony made me hesitant to voice my own needs. Over time, I learned that agreeableness doesn't mean suppressing one's voice, but rather blending empathy with authenticity. It's about standing firm in one's values, while valuing the perspectives of others. This nuanced understanding of agreeableness transformed my approach to relationships, both personal and professional. In the workplace, I observed how agreeableness fostered teamwork and morale. During a high-stakes project, I noticed Jake, a deeply respectful and agreeable teammate, who consistently prioritized team harmony. His efforts often went unnoticed, but they laid the foundation for our team's success. His quiet strength was a reminder that agreeableness, while not always the loudest voice in the room, builds bridges and cultivates a cooperative environment where everyone thrives. The real magic of agreeableness lies in its subtle yet profound impact. It's the gentle nudge that encourages a friend to open up, the warm nod that validates a colleague's idea, and the empathetic ear that transforms a casual conversation into a meaningful connection. As I navigate through life, I cherish and cultivate this trait within myself and appreciate it in others. It's a powerful reminder that in a world of myriad voices, the one that speaks with empathy, respect, and goodwill often leaves the most lasting impression. Reflecting on these experiences, I find myself increasingly committed to nurturing agreeableness in my interactions. It's not always easy in a world that often champions self-assertion and competition. Yet, I find strength in the gentle art of understanding, in the quiet power of kindness, and in the resilient thread of goodwill that weaves through the heart of human connection. And so, each day, I strive to walk this path, knowing that every step taken in the spirit of agreeableness brightens the journey for myself and those I encounter. The art of compromise. Sitting at the kitchen table, I stared at the untouched coffee mug in front of me. The looming conversation played on repeat in my mind. Compromise. It's a word that has always seemed easier in the abstract, but decidedly more complex when you're faced with actually practicing it in real life. My partner Lily's words the previous night echoed in my thoughts. We need to talk about our future, Jake. We have to decide together. Agreeableness has often been touted as a favorable trait, one that oils the gears of social interaction and builds bridges over gaps in understanding. Yet, in compromise, agreeableness isn't just about saying yes or avoiding conflict. It's about truly listening and considering the other person's needs, then finding a middle ground. Lily is a master of this art. She navigates our relationship with a balance that I sometimes struggle to achieve. I've been told that I'm headstrong, stubborn, really, whereas Lily embodies the patience and empathy that make compromise possible. The necessity of compromise in maintaining a healthy relationship had never been clearer to me than during the long hours of trying to find a solution that worked for both of us. We both had dreams, mine being a thriving tech startup, hers a nonprofit for underprivileged kids. The tension came not from a lack of love or commitment, but from the fear of losing ourselves in the process of becoming an U.S. Balancing our individual goals while nurturing our relationship felt like walking a tightrope. Jake, we can't keep pushing our lives into separate lanes, Lily had said, tears welling in her eyes. I want both of us to succeed, but we need to find a way to walk this path together. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Compromise isn't about losing or winning. It's about forging a path forward where both parties feel valued and respected. It's the acknowledgement that our relationship is the most significant investment we'll ever make. The stakes are high, but the returns are immeasurable. We spent the entire night talking, a marathon of vulnerability and honesty. There were moments of frustration, exasperated sighs, and even silence heavy with contemplation. Through it all, we navigated with a compass of mutual respect. Agreeableness served not as placid conciliation, but as active engagement to understand and honor each other's deepest aspirations. By dawn, we had drafted a blueprint of a shared future. It wasn't perfect, and it demanded sacrifices from both sides. I agreed to scale down my startup's aggressive expansion plans, making room for time and resources that we could channel into Lily's nonprofit initiative. Lily, in turn, promised to incorporate tech solutions in her work that could benefit from my expertise, merging our passions in a way that felt synergistic rather than sacrificial. The art of compromise had transformed our initially divergent paths into a shared journey, underpinned by a renewed commitment to our common ground. Later that morning, we sat in the same spot at the kitchen table, sipping coffee from the now warm, cherished mugs. The conversation from last night had left us exhausted, but more connected than ever. In those quiet moments, I realized that mastering the art of compromise wasn't a skill acquired overnight. It was an ongoing practice, rooted in love, buoyed by respect, and constantly evolving. The beauty of it lay in its reciprocity, its capacity to nourish both the self and the relationship. And as I looked into Lily's eyes, I knew we had created something far more resilient and beautiful than just a simple agreement. We had crafted a life, together. Kindness in a competitive world. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting lines of golden warmth across my desk. Another email pinged into my inbox, announcing yet another opportunity for growth in my already cluttered professional calendar. In the corporate world, everyone is pushing for advancement, for the next rung on the ladder. The culture of constant competition had, for years, conditioned me to view colleagues less as collaborators and more as rivals. Yet, the gnawing sense that something wasn't right kept me awake at night. It was during a particularly hectic week that I crossed paths with Eleanor, a new hire in our department. She was assigned the task of managing a project I had been chasing for months. While a younger version of myself might have stewed in resentment, something prompted me to take a different approach. I reached out and offered my support, sharing insights and resources accumulated over years of experience. Her gratitude was immediate and deeply genuine, a response that caught me off guard. In the briefest of moments, I realized how kindness had the power to cut through our professional facades. A few weeks passed, and I found myself grappling with a high-stakes presentation on short notice. To my surprise, when I mentioned my predicament during a casual lunch, Eleanor offered to assist without a moment's hesitation. Together, we worked late into the night, pooling our expertise to craft a compelling narrative. The presentation was a success, earning acclaim from both our peers and supervisors. More importantly, the experience shattered my preconceptions of workplace dynamics. It became evident that collaboration didn't dilute our contributions. Instead, it amplified them. This newfound perspective led me to reflect on the broader implications of choosing empathy over rivalry. Where we often see scarcity, a finite number of promotions, bonuses, opportunities, kindness reveals abundance. The mutual support Eleanor and I extended to one another didn't just yield professional rewards. It fostered a deeper connection grounded in trust and respect. In relinquishing the instinct to compete, I gained far more than I ever could through personal accolades alone. As months turned into years, I made a conscious effort to cultivate this mindset, not only within my team but throughout the company. To my delight, the ripple effects were unmistakable. Departments that once operated in silos began to share knowledge openly. Innovation flourished when ideas could be freely exchanged, critiqued, and enhanced by diverse perspectives. The atmosphere transformed, growing ever more inclusive and, paradoxically, more competitive in the healthiest sense. We were collectively striving for excellence, not at the expense of each other, but in harmony. The journey of understanding and practicing kindness in a competitive world isn't without its challenges. There are moments of doubt, experiences where one's generosity may feel unreciprocated or even exploited. Yet, even in these instances, I find solace in knowing that the choice to act with empathy ultimately shapes who I am, and how I want to contribute to the world around me. In a landscape where victories are often tallied in fleeting accolades, fostering enduring relationships built on kindness offers a sense of fulfillment that no title or award can bestow. As I shut down my computer for the day, the sun now a fading glow on the horizon, I felt a profound sense of peace. It isn't always easy to champion kindness in a world that thrives on competition. But every small act of empathy, every moment of genuine connection, reaffirms my belief that this path, though less traveled, is undeniably rewarding. And perhaps, in the quiet spaces of our lives, this choice might just be the most profound victory of all. Chapter 6: Neuroticism. Understanding emotional stability. It was one of those moments in life that seems entirely pedestrian until it twists into something significant. I was sitting in a crowded coffee shop, the low hum of chatter and the clinking of cups creating a background rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. In front of me sat Marie, her expression a blend of frustration and weariness. A single tear welled up in the corner of her eye, threatening to break free. "Why is it," she began, her voice brittle, "that I can't seem to control my emotions anymore?" Marie's question shattered the peace that the coffee shop had falsely promised. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee, not knowing where to start. Emotional stability is a complicated beast. Sometimes, it's the only thing standing between you and a whirlwind of chaos. I could see it plainly. Marie was at the mercy of her emotions, her mental well-being teetering on a delicate balance, much like the foam atop her untouched latte. I remembered a time when I too had felt similarly desperate, battling my own inner turmoil. Neuroticism often gets a bad rap, but it's merely a trait that reflects how much we react emotionally to life's stresses. For me, it had been an exhausting roller coaster of highs and lows, leaving my soul weary and my mind cluttered. Yet, I had learned, even in the darkest of times, that emotional stability wasn't an untouchable ideal, but a muscle you could strengthen. Neuroticism is like that friend who overreacts to everything, I told Marie, choosing my words carefully. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I wondered if she would leave. But she stayed, and I took it as a sign to continue. It's all about how much our emotions govern our day-to-day life. High neuroticism means high emotional reactivity. It's not bad in itself, it just needs to be managed. Marie let out a deep sigh, and that lone tear finally escaped, tracing a sorrowful line down her cheek. I wanted to tell her that recognizing this trait was the first step toward taming it. I wanted her to know that emotional stability provides us with the armor we need to face challenges without falling apart, a sturdy raft to navigate the stormy seas of stress and anxiety. Life had taught me the importance of looking within myself, seeking out the source of my emotional volatility. It was not an easy journey. There were times I felt utterly alone, surrounded by my own turbulent feelings. But with understanding and a bit of persistence, things began to change. I started to recognize my triggers, the patterns that sent me spiraling. Slowly, I learned to respond rather than react, giving myself the gift of emotional stability. Changing how we handle stress can transform our entire experience of life, I shared, my tone a bit more hopeful, seeing a flicker of understanding in Marie's eyes. It's about finding balance. Emotional stability is less about suppressing emotions and more about understanding and managing them. It allows us to stay grounded, even when everything around us is in flux. Marie nodded, albeit slowly. I could see her wheels turning, reflections of her battles shining in her eyes. I realized then that this conversation, these moments of connection, were small but crucial steps in redefining our emotional landscapes. And as we sat there, two people seeking balance in a world that rarely offers it, I knew that this journey we had shared was just the beginning. Coping with stress. Everyone faces stress in life. Over the years, I've found ways to cope, personal anecdotes that have shaped my understanding of it. One of those moments occurred when I was preparing for a critical presentation at work. My pulse pounded in my ears, hands trembling slightly as I went over my notes for the 10th time. Practical tips were my anchors. They may sound mundane, but one of my go-to methods is deep breathing. I close my eyes, inhale deeply through my nose, hold for a moment, and then exhale slowly. This simple act helps to calm my racing mind and bring back some semblance of control. As I practiced this before my presentation, I felt the tight knot in my chest begin to loosen. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Another lifesaver has been exercise. A brisk walk or a session at the gym not only helped me physically, but also allowed me to clear my thoughts, restoring my sense of balance. The endorphins rushing through my system played their part in lifting my spirits. However, it wasn't just physical activities that worked. Even simple hobbies like reading or knitting provided a break from the relentless pressure. Beyond these practical tips, understanding the concept of neuroticism profoundly impacted my approach to stress. I recalled one particularly enlightening therapy session, where my therapist explained how people high in neuroticism might perceive stressful situations more intensely. This wasn't a flaw, but rather a characteristic of my personality that I could work with. Recognizing this shifted my perspective. I started to see my reactions as data points rather than judgments on my character. Maintaining a journal became a tool of immense value. Committing my worries to paper allowed me to process them externally, rather than letting them churn within me. It created space within my mind, making room for more constructive thoughts. Patterns emerged in my writing, letting me identify triggers and develop strategies to counteract them. Mindfulness and meditation also played pivotal roles. By grounding myself in the present moment, I reduced the anxiety I felt about potential future mishaps or past mistakes. It was during one of these mindful reflections that I learned to be kinder to myself, a realization that softened the harsh self-criticism I was often prone to. As I grew in this journey, I began sharing my experiences with close friends, creating a support network. We exchanged stories, tips, and above all, support. This network was not just a safety net, but a source of immense strength. Knowing people who understood and empathized lightened the load. One evening, after introducing these various practices into my routine, I faced another stressful situation, juggling multiple deadlines at work. I felt the familiar rise of panic but paused, took a deep breath, and decided to tackle one task at a time. I leaned on my exercise routine and shared my anxieties with a friend. Gradually, the overwhelming pressure eased, replaced by a manageable rhythm. It's the culmination of these practical tips, personal experiences, and an understanding of neuroticism that provided pathways to maintaining emotional balance. Each strategy built upon the other, creating a multifaceted approach to stress management. While the pressuring moments never disappeared, they became opportunities to apply these coping mechanisms, transforming the overwhelm into manageable parts, one step at a time. Overcoming anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear had been my shadow for as long as I could remember. These two seemed to be my perennial companions, whispering doubts and distress into every waking moment. The days were clouded with an ever-present sense of dread, and the nights were no better, haunted by restless thoughts swirling in a loop. The medical term neuroticism was new to me at the time, but it perfectly encapsulated the intensity of my emotional storms and hypervigilant state of mind. However, despite the suffocating grip of anxiety, I embarked on a quest to find tranquility. It wasn't a sudden epiphany, but rather a slow, arduous journey. The first step was acknowledging that I needed help. Seeking therapy was a daunting proposition, akin to opening an old wound. Sitting across from a stranger and baring my soul felt like an insurmountable challenge initially, yet I took that leap of faith. The weight of carrying my fears alone had become too much to bear. My therapist introduced me to cognitive behavioral techniques, and for the first time, I began to understand how my thoughts were feeding my anxiety. The strategy that resonated most was reframing negative thoughts. Imagine combating a familiar, debilitating dread of social gatherings. Each invitation felt like a test of survival. I was taught to identify the automatic, catastrophizing thoughts. Everyone will judge me, I'll make a fool of myself, and challenge them with tangible evidence from past experiences where things did not go horrifically wrong. It was like flipping a switch, replacing panic with a newfound, albeit fragile, calm. Understanding mindfulness turned out to be another pivotal step in my journey. It wasn't about obliterating fear, but learning to live alongside it with a sense of curiosity rather than trepidation. The practice of bringing myself back into the present moment, focusing on my breath, or the textures around me, served as a grounding technique. It felt like finding an anchor in a turbulent sea. Slowly, I noticed the frequency and intensity of my anxious episodes dwindling. One of the surprising yet profoundly simple strategies was the power of self-compassion. There were many nights I would mentally berate myself for being overly sensitive or weak. Recognizing these inner critiques as a form of self-harm was eye-opening. I learned to treat myself with the same kindness and patience I would offer a dear friend. This shift didn't happen overnight. It was a continuous practice of gentle self-reassurance, which gradually built a stronger, more resilient sense of self. Gradually, the combined effect of these approaches started showing results. There were setbacks, inevitable backslides into the old patterns of worry and fear, but each stumble offered a learning experience. Each time I fell, I gained more insight into the mechanics of my anxiety and learned new ways to rise. As I navigated through this transformative journey, I felt a burgeoning sense of emotional stability. I discovered that fear and anxiety were not insurmountable mountains, but rather intricate mazes I could learn to navigate. The road is long, often steep, but each small triumph feels significant. It's a process, an ongoing adventure in which I reclaim pieces of myself from the clutches of fear, one step at a time. Chapter 7. Discovering the Big Five in My Own Life. Self-reflection on openness. As I sit by the window, watching the shadows of trees dance under the fading sunlight, I find myself reflecting on a trait that has become an essential part of my identity: openness. This quality, often understated, has been both a guide and a challenge throughout my life. I remember the first time I consciously made an effort to be open to new ideas. It was during a summer retreat in the mountains, where a group of us had gathered for a series of philosophical discussions. I was hesitant at first, uncertain of how my own rigid beliefs would hold up against the unfamiliar perspectives that were about to be shared. However, as the sessions progressed, I found myself captivated by the diversity of thoughts and experiences. One participant, a doctor from a small village, shared stories that were so different from my urban upbringing. Listening to her opened my eyes to the complexities and beauties of a life that was worlds apart from mine. This initial experience was like opening a door to a room filled with endless possibilities. The more I listened, the more I was able to relate, empathize, and grow. Over time, this openness to new experiences and ideas became a cornerstone of my personal growth. In my travels, I sought not just the familiar comforts, but also the uncharted territories. I began to cherish conversations with strangers, trying out new cuisines, and even delving into art forms I once thought I had no interest in. Each encounter added a new layer to my understanding of the world and, more importantly, of myself. However, embracing openness did not come without its challenges. There were moments of doubt and discomfort, instances where my core beliefs were questioned or where I had to navigate the ambiguity of the unfamiliar. But these very moments also became opportunities for deep introspection. They pushed me to reconcile my inner conflicts and to find a balance between holding on to my values and being flexible enough to evolve. Looking back, I realized that openness is not merely about welcoming new experiences. It is about allowing those experiences to shape and refine one's identity. It is about being vulnerable, admitting when I am wrong, and having the courage to change course when needed. This journey of self-reflection has taught me that true openness requires an ongoing commitment to learning and self-improvement. Tonight, as I sit in the stillness of my home, I feel a deep sense of gratitude for the path I have chosen. The shadows outside gently remind me that openness is like that dance of light and dark, dynamic, ever-changing, and profoundly beautiful. As I continue this journey, I embrace the unknown with a heart full of curiosity and a mind eager to be molded by the endless wonders that lie ahead. My journey towards conscientiousness. The rain pelted the window with a ferocity that mirrored my own inner turmoil. Sitting at my cluttered desk, the weight of procrastination and neglect bore down on me. An open calendar, pages yellowing from neglect, served as a silent accusation. I had long ignored the burgeoning need to be more conscientious, but life, with all its intricacies, demanded a change. Conscientiousness had always seemed like an admirable trait, one possessed by others naturally. Growing up, I often heard the praises sung of those who never missed a deadline or left a task unfinished. It was as if they held a secret key to some grand, organized universe, while I bumbled about in my chaotic constellation. I aspired to be like them, to wield the power of conscientiousness. But, as with any journey worth taking, mine began with confrontation. Confrontation of my own habits, or rather, the lack thereof. Breaking free from the cycle of procrastination was akin to clawing out of a deep pit. Each small victory, a completed task or an organized day, felt monumental. Yet, for every triumph, there were relentless challenges, distractions that lured me away, old habits hungrily waiting to resurface. My room, once a reflection of my sporadic mind, slowly transformed. It became clean, orderly, a tangible manifestation of my internal revolution. The calendar, once a forgotten relic, now carried marks of diligence and commitment. The initial steps towards conscientiousness required vigilance. Daily, I grappled with the temptation to revert to my old ways. There were days filled with frustration when the progress seemed insignificant. However, in the silence of routine, I found unexpected solace. The act of methodically ticking off tasks introduced a new kind of contentment. Little by little, I noticed the essence of conscientiousness seeping into different facets of my life. My relationships enriched as promises were kept, and my professional life blossomed as deadlines were met with ease. Yet, the journey was far from linear. It was a winding path, fraught with setbacks and the occasional burst of self-doubt. But amidst the chaos, there were moments of clarity, epiphanies that signaled progress. I began to realize that being conscientious wasn't synonymous with perfection. It was about consistency and the persistent effort to improve. My friends and family, who were skeptical at first, started to notice the changes. Their support became an invaluable ally, encouraging me to press on when the going got tough. As I reached the brink of my transformation, I felt a sense of fulfillment I had never known before. The realization dawned on me: the journey towards conscientiousness wasn't just about achieving a series of tasks. It was about evolving into a more reliable, diligent, and ultimately content version of myself. Every challenge faced, every small success achieved, accumulated into a significant narrative of personal growth. It was a continuous, evolving journey. One that promised new challenges ahead, but also new heights of accomplishment and self-awareness. Embracing my extroverted side. Growing up, I always found myself at the center of social gatherings, naturally weaving in and out of conversations, laughter flowing freely. I thrived on the energy of being around people, drawing from it like a lifeline. However, for a long time, I felt a pang of conflict, as if I was being too much. It wasn't until recently that I began embracing my extroverted side, realizing it was a strength, not a flaw. I remember vividly the first time I felt truly at ease with my extroverted nature. It was during a college event where I was part of the organizing team. My role required me to interact with a multitude of people, coordinating efforts, resolving conflicts, and ensuring the smooth running of the event. As the day unfolded, a revelation struck me. I wasn't forcing myself to enjoy these interactions. I was genuinely energized, my enthusiasm contagious and uplifting to others. The more I engaged, the more the event flourished. Leveraging social strengths became a gateway to enriching experiences. I found it easier to form connections, making friends in new settings, and networking with professionals in my field. These interactions opened doors that might have remained closed had I not embraced this aspect of myself. My knack for initiating conversations without hesitation made me a valuable team player, a catalyst in group projects and social gatherings. However, with these strengths came the need to address potential weaknesses. Being overly social sometimes meant neglecting personal downtime, leading to burnout. I had to learn to balance my social enthusiasm with the necessity of solitude, a challenge that required conscious effort. I began scheduling me time, brief interludes where I could recharge, allowing my extroversion to shine without dimming my inner light. Another hurdle was navigating the occasional perception of being overbearing. I discovered the importance of reading social cues, ensuring my presence was welcomed and not overwhelming. This self-awareness became a tool, allowing me to modulate my behavior to suit diverse social contexts, enhancing my interactions rather than hindering them. Today, I view my extroverted side not as a label, but as a dynamic aspect of who I am. It empowers me to connect genuinely, to uplift and inspire. As I continue to embrace this part of myself, I aim to refine it, leveraging its strengths while staying mindful of its potential pitfalls. Each social encounter becomes a step forward in this ongoing journey, a testament to the power of embracing one's true nature. Chapter 8. Applying the Big Five in Relationships. Communication and Agreeableness. I remember the first time I truly understood the power of agreeableness in communication. It was during a heated debate at work, where tempers were flaring and egos were clashing. As someone who had always considered myself assertive, I found it challenging to step back and approach the conversation with a different mindset. However, something urged me to try. I noticed that when I softened my tone, acknowledged the other person's point of view, and showed genuine interest in our collective goal rather than just pushing my agenda, the mood shifted significantly. The tension in the room eased, and we ended up reaching a consensus that satisfied everyone involved. Agreeableness is often mistaken as being a pushover, but in reality, it's a strength that can make interactions smoother and more effective. A friend of mine, Sarah, is an exemplary model of this trait. She has an uncanny ability to listen attentively, empathize, and offer insights without making others feel undervalued. Sarah's approach always made me reflect on how important it is to create an environment where open communication thrives. Her way of dealing with conflicts was not about winning, but finding a resolution that made everyone feel heard and respected. I began to see how this skill could transform not just professional relationships, but personal ones as well. Conflict resolution became a fascinating arena where agreeableness truly shined. Once, during a family disagreement that had stretched for years, I decided to emulate Sarah's approach. I chose to navigate the conversation with patience, acknowledging each person's feelings and promoting a spirit of cooperation. The transformation was incredible. What had been a stubborn standoff became a meaningful discussion. We found common ground and a renewed sense of connection. This experience was a profound lesson in how fostering an agreeable atmosphere could open doors to understanding and healing. Building fulfilling relationships, whether at work, with friends, or within the family, hinges on our ability to communicate effectively. Agreeableness plays a pivotal role here. When we approach interactions with a gentle demeanor, open-mindedness, and a genuine wish to understand the other party, it sets a foundation for trust and respect. I noticed that my conversations with people became more enriching. There was less defensiveness and more willingness to share and collaborate. Relationships that once felt strained began to improve, and I felt a deeper connection with those around me. Reflecting on these experiences, it became clear that agreeableness is not just a personality trait but a strategic tool that enhances communication. It nurtures an atmosphere where differences can be discussed without animosity, where solutions are sought with mutual respect, and where every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen bonds. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is to listen, empathize, and approach each conversation with kindness. Navigating conflict with the Big Five. I've always found conflict quite unnerving. It was during one of those taut, hushed boardroom standoffs that I first came across the term Big Five personality traits. Watching two colleagues lock horns over a project deadline while our manager looked on with an inscrutable expression, I wondered if there was a way to make these confrontations less painful. Little did I know that understanding these traits could act as a navigational compass through the choppy waters of human interaction. Imagine my surprise when I learned how simple yet profound it was. The straightforward concept of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism could untangle the complexities of human behavior. My next significant encounter was in a personal setting, a heated argument over family decisions. As emotions ran high, I applied what I had learned. My sibling, high in extroversion, thrived on social gatherings and felt stifled by too many family rules. On the other hand, I leaned towards conscientiousness, valuing structure and planning. The clash was natural. Realizing this was illuminating. Instead of letting the argument escalate, I began to navigate it. "Do you feel like the house rules are too restrictive?" I asked calmly. Immediately, the defensiveness in my sibling's posture eased. We reached a middle ground by acknowledging our different needs, which reflected our unique personality traits. This was the first crack in the wall of misunderstanding that so often divides people. In professional settings, the Big Five have become a tool I rely on. Take the scenario with Jenna and Paul in the recent project. Jenna, highly conscientious and agreeable, was detail-oriented but avoided direct confrontation. Paul, similarly conscientious but with low agreeableness, was blunt and wanted things done his way. The two were on the verge of a verbal showdown until I stepped in, leveraging their traits to foster a sense of understanding. I proposed a solution that utilized Jenna's meticulous planning and Paul's straightforward strategy, aligning their strengths rather than letting their traits clash. Understanding extroversion and introversion can also be pivotal. For instance, meetings used to be a breeding ground for miscommunication until I began to recognize signs. Extroverted team members monopolized discussions, leaving introverted colleagues frustrated and unnoticed. By structuring meetings to include written input and round-robin speaking turns, everyone's voice began to be heard, and conflicts diminished significantly. But perhaps the most challenging trait to address is neuroticism, which pits one against their own emotional stability. I remember Claire vividly. Her nervous glances and quick temper were manifestations of high neuroticism. Once, during a particularly stressful quarter-end closing, she lashed out, creating a tension that hung dense in the air. By addressing her need for reassurance and delicate handling, offering frequent feedback, and building a more supportive environment, we reduced friction and enhanced team cohesion. Liberating as these realizations were, the real test came when conflict management became a balancing act of emotional intelligence and strategic insight. I recall a time when every approach seemed futile. But it was in those moments of personal doubt and professional challenge that the Big Five served not just as a framework for others' understanding, but for self-reflection too. Recognizing my blend of traits helped me steer through turbulence with resilience and empathy, ultimately making me a better mediator. Perhaps what sticks with me most is the revelation that everyone, regardless of circumstance, is navigating their own internal blueprints of openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The moments we acknowledge this are the moments we transcend mere conflict resolution, entering a realm of profound human connection. The chapter of applying the Big Five into daily life keeps writing itself, each conflict a different story, each resolution a step towards better understanding. That day in the boardroom was just the beginning of a journey that reshaped how I perceived and interacted with the world. Each interaction now felt like a careful dance, choreographed by the hidden but ever-present traits that define us. Understanding emotions in relationships. Walking hand in hand with Maria through the city park, I noticed the subtle tension in her grip, signaling a wave of emotions that were building inside her. It's not the first time I've sensed it, and over the years, I've come to realize these silent signals are crucial in understanding the dynamics of our relationship. In relationships, emotions play a pivotal role, often influenced by our inherent personalities. According to the Big Five personality traits, openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, our emotional landscape is mapped in unique ways. When I first read about this, it felt as though a light bulb had switched on. Understanding Maria and myself through this lens meant our interactions and reactions started making more sense. Maria is high in openness and agreeableness, always viewing the world with curiosity and genuinely considering others' feelings. This makes her incredibly empathetic, yet also susceptible to emotional overload. I remember one evening, after an intense day at work, I was venting about a minor issue. Maria's eyes filled with concern, and she leaned closer, absorbing every word, her own stresses melting into the background. Her openness invited me to share more, but her agreeableness made me cautious. I didn't want to burden her. On the other hand, I score high on conscientiousness and neuroticism. Detail-oriented and often anxious, I plan meticulously, but find myself grappling with stress. The day Maria forgot our dinner plans due to a hectic schedule, my structured world momentarily collapsed into chaos, triggering an irritable outburst. It wasn't fair to her, I realized later, and this is where understanding our traits became a bridge to empathy. Conversations turned reflective. "Yeah, I'm sorry about the outburst. Yeah, I confessed one night, trying to piece my thoughts together. Yeah, I get overwhelmed easily, and I know it's unfair to you." Maria's response was a gentle reminder of why our bond felt so special. "I understand," she said softly, her hand covering mine. We're both learning." That effort to understand each other went beyond mere apologies. It paved the way for deeper empathy. We began discussing our emotional responses through the prism of personality traits. I started appreciating Maria's open-mindedness more, realizing that her curiosity wasn't just about the world, but also about understanding me. She, in turn, gave me space to plan and organize without overwhelming my sense of order. These insights have not been an instant fix. There are still moments of friction, where our emotions clash. But now, these instances become opportunities to learn and grow, rather than causes for despair. Each disagreement is no longer just a fight. It is a window into our inner worlds, revealing our fears, desires, and, ultimately, our love. As we continued our walk, I felt an overwhelming appreciation for the journey we've embarked upon. The city lights shimmered around us like silent witnesses to our emotional evolution. I squeezed Maria's hand gently, feeling a reciprocal warmth in her touch. Relationships, I've realized, are not just about understanding each other's emotions. They are about understanding ourselves, and how those emotions intertwine to create something profoundly beautiful. Chapter 9. The Big Five in the Workplace. Leadership and Personality Traits. Leadership has always fascinated me, ever since I was a young observer of powerful personalities in varied walks of life. I remember my first encounter with a true leader was in the form of my high school teacher, Mr. Roberts. The way he commanded the room, without uttering a word, was nothing short of magic. As I delved deeper into the mechanics of what made him so captivating, I learned about the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These traits, I found, were the cornerstones of effective leadership. Openness, the first of the Big Five, fosters creativity and a broad-minded approach. A leader high in openness is willing to explore new ideas and embrace innovation. Take, for example, an entrepreneur I met during my college years. He was a visionary, always eager to push boundaries and experiment with new technologies. His openness laid the foundation for a startup that soon revolutionized the industry. Such leaders often inspire others with their willingness to chart unknown territories, proving that a curious mind can transform visions into reality. Conscientiousness, on the other hand, is the trait of reliability and hard work. Leaders who score high in conscientiousness are disciplined and meticulous. Consider my experience with a project manager in my first job. She was the epitome of dedication, never missing a deadline and always prioritizing the team's goals. Her attention to detail and responsible demeanor earned her the respect and trust of everyone around her. Conscientious leaders ensure that tasks are completed efficiently and standards are met, thereby maintaining consistency and trust within the team. Extroversion translates to sociability, energy, and an assertive presence. It's no coincidence that many of the most memorable leaders are extroverted. I vividly recall a charismatic CEO I interviewed for a magazine feature. His energy was infectious, and his ability to connect with anyone he met was remarkable. Extravagant in his speech and actions, he motivated his employees and stakeholders with ease. Such leaders are often the most visible, rallying teams with their vibrant enthusiasm and dynamic presence. Agreeableness is characterized by compassion and cooperative nature. My grandmother, although not a traditional leader, embodied agreeableness in her everyday actions. She was a natural mediator in family disputes, her empathy and understanding diffusing tensions seamlessly. In leadership, this trait manifests in the ability to build rapport and foster a harmonious environment. Agreeable leaders are often seen as approachable and caring, cultivating loyalty and a sense of belonging within their teams. Neuroticism, often perceived negatively, plays a complex role in leadership. Leaders with high levels of emotional stability, low neuroticism, can handle stress and pressure effortlessly. I once observed a military officer in a crisis situation. His calm demeanor in the face of chaos was nothing short of inspiring. While leaders high in neuroticism might struggle with anxiety, they also possess heightened empathy and sensitivity, which can be valuable in understanding and addressing team concerns. The interplay of these traits shapes distinct leadership styles. Transformational leaders, often high in openness and extroversion, inspire and drive change, while transactional leaders, typically high in conscientiousness, focus on structure and efficiency. Democratic leaders, high in agreeableness, prioritize team input and collaboration. Each style has its strengths, and the effectiveness of a leader often hinges on the right balance of these traits. Reflecting on my own journey, I realized that understanding the Big Five traits not only enhanced my appreciation for diverse leadership styles, but also helped me identify and develop my own strengths. Each interaction, each leader I encountered, offered a lesson in the art and science of guiding others. Whether it was Mr. Roberts' commanding presence or my grandmother's gentle empathy, these experiences cemented my belief that leadership is as much about personality as it is about skills. As I stand at the crossroads of my own leadership journey, I am reminded that the path is ever evolving. The Big Five traits serve as a compass, guiding me through the complexities of leading, inspiring, and connecting with others. The true essence of leadership lies not in perfection, but in the continuous pursuit of growth and understanding. Team dynamics and extraversion. Entering the office each day, I could feel the energy shift with the presence of one particular team member, Brian. His laughter echoed through the open floor plan, a beacon of exuberance that drew people to gather around like moths to a flame. I often wondered just how much his personality was affecting our team's dynamics and, ultimately, our productivity. I wasn't particularly introverted myself, but Brian's level of extraversion was on a different plane entirely. One Thursday morning, our manager, Jessica, initiated a brainstorming session. Brian, as expected, took charge effortlessly. His confidence was infectious, encouraging even the quietest members to voice their thoughts. "No idea is too wild," he quipped with a grin that felt almost disarming. I noticed how the energy in the room shifted. Tension seemed to dispel and creativity started to flow like an unleashed river. The result was astonishing. Within an hour, we had more innovative ideas than we had seen in the past month. Over time, I realized that Brian's influence was more nuanced than I initially understood. His extraversion acted as a social glue, binding us together with a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. After work, he often organized informal gatherings at the local cafe. As we laughed over cups of steaming coffee, the bond among team members solidified. We were no longer just colleagues. We became a tightly knit group, united by both our professional and personal connections. Morale within the team reached unprecedented heights. I observed how the uplifted spirits translated to a more enthusiastic approach to our tasks. Deadlines were met with eagerness rather than dread, and challenges were tackled as collective hurdles. It was a transformation driven by the collaborative environment that Brian's extraversion had helped cultivate. Our productivity soared, and the quality of our output improved significantly. But not everything was effortless. There were moments when Brian's dominating presence overshadowed more introverted team members, causing occasional friction. Jessica had to step in a few times, ensuring everyone had a chance to contribute meaningfully. It became a delicate balance of leveraging Brian's strengths while fostering an inclusive atmosphere. These experiences taught us valuable lessons about the dynamics of teamwork. Then came a pivotal project that tested our newly found synergy. The deadlines were tight, and the stakes were high. As the pressure mounted, the initial cohesion began to waver. Brian, sensing the shift, brought the team together for an impromptu huddle. "We've faced bigger challenges," he reminded us, his voice brimming with confidence. "We've got this." His optimism was the spark we needed. We rallied behind him, each person contributing their best, driven by a common goal and boosted by mutual trust. In the end, we not only met our deadline but also exceeded all expectations. This chapter of my team's journey highlighted the intricate dance of personalities within a group. Brian's extraversion was a catalyst, but it was the collective effort, facilitated by an environment of open communication and mutual respect, that propelled us forward. As I reflected on our adventure, I realized that the true essence of teamwork lies in embracing each individual's unique qualities, and when balanced well, it unlocks potentials far greater than we could ever achieve alone. The importance of emotional stability at work. There are days when everything at work seems to flow effortlessly, like a well-oiled machine. My desk, cluttered by other standards, felt like an extension of my mind. If I needed a specific file, my hand would instinctively find it amid the organized chaos. It was a sunny Tuesday when I first noticed the real impact of emotional stability, or perhaps it was the first time I cared to notice. The office buzzed with the usual morning energy, colleagues exchanging their curt greetings and the fragrance of freshly brewed coffee riding the air. I had just settled into my chair when Marcus stormed in, and from the look on his face, it seemed like he brought a storm with him. His brows furrowed, and lips tightly pressed, Marcus looked ready to lash out at the next person who crossed his path. The aura he exuded was palpable, sending an unspoken ripple of tension through the office. Curiously, I turned back to my monitor, attempting to summon the calm I usually wore like a second skin. But it was more challenging than anticipated. Marcus' negativity was infectious. I watched as he snapped at Claire over a trivial report issue, her shoulders hunching in response. As much as I tried to focus, the stark shift in atmosphere distracted me. Work became a chore, concentration waned, and I could feel an involuntary tightening in my chest. By lunchtime, the tension had morphed into a tangible fog, veiling everyone's mood. I grabbed my sandwich and retreated to the rooftop garden, an oasis above the cubicles. There, amidst the sounds of birds and the soft rustling of leaves, I found solace. I made a mental note of how different things could be if Marcus had managed his emotions better that morning. A single spark of negativity had set ablaze our collective productivity. It then struck me, like a gentle epiphany. Here was a prime example of why emotional stability was so crucial at work. It wasn't just about managing one's own emotions. It directly influenced the emotional climate of everyone else. I decided to share my thoughts with Henry, our HR manager, who always lent a sympathetic ear. He nodded thoughtfully as I recounted the morning's events. Emotional stability acts like a firewall, Henry said after a while. It protects not only the individual, but everyone around them. Imagine if Marcus had taken a moment to gather himself. Perhaps today would have been different for all of us. That conversation sparked a pivotal change. We implemented mindfulness sessions and offered emotional intelligence workshops. Weeks passed, and I noticed a collective shift. People were more aware, more present. We talked openly about stressors and strategies to manage our emotions better. The transformation was subtle at first, but undeniable. We saw fewer outbursts, more collaboration. Productivity soared, and more importantly, the office became a space where everyone could breathe, even on the busiest days. Emotional stability had become our silent ally, and in mastering it, we had not only improved ourselves, but also the microcosm of our workplace. The power of one changed many. Emotional balance, I realized, was the true linchpin of a thriving work environment. Chapter 10. Cultivating a Balanced Personality. Integrating the Big Five Traits. Understanding the essence of each trait within the Big Five, openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, felt like piecing together a grand puzzle of self-discovery. I'd always excelled at book learning, but mastering these intangible bits of personality was something else entirely. It started with openness. On a rainy afternoon while sipping green tea, I found myself lost in a passage from a new science fiction novel. The author's intricate world-building stirred my imagination and curiosity, hallmark traits of openness. I knew being open didn't just mean appreciating art. It was about remaining receptive to new experiences and ideas, even when they challenged my existing beliefs. Next came conscientiousness. Often, I found myself grappling with procrastination. Creating a habit tracker was my turning point. With it, I meticulously planned my days, ensuring that each task was segmented and achievable. That structure gave me a sense of control, a reliable map through the chaos of life's unpredictability. Extroversion was a different beast. I remembered a networking event where I felt like a fish out of water. Yet, as I engaged with diverse individuals, I understood the power of human connection. It wasn't just about being the loudest person in the room, but truly tuning into others, establishing a two-way street of communication and energy. Agreeableness required a shift in perspective. I'd always been somewhat skeptical of people, guarding myself against perceived slights. Practicing empathy taught me otherwise. I realized that everyone is fighting their battles. Extending understanding and kindness became my new mantra, dissolving barriers I'd unconsciously built. Lastly, there was neuroticism. This trait had always been my biggest challenge. Anxiety had a way of creeping into my thoughts, casting shadows over my daily existence. I learned coping mechanisms, mindfulness, deep breathing, and sometimes simply allowing myself to feel vulnerable. These practices became my anchor in stormy waters, transforming my vulnerability into strength. Integrating these traits was not an overnight phenomenon. It was an evolving journey of self-awareness and growth. Like the gears of a finely tuned machine, each trait supported the others. My openness fed my conscientiousness by embracing new organizational methods. Extroversion helped refine my agreeableness through genuine connections. And surprisingly, leveraging neuroticism made me more conscientious by heightening my awareness of potential pitfalls. This holistic integration was more than just balancing attributes, it was about recognizing their interdependence. I became not just a sum of parts but a harmonious whole, striving toward continuous self-improvement. As I sat there, leafing through my journal filled with reflections and lessons, I realized the road ahead was still long. Yet, with each step, I wasn't just discovering who I was, but who I was becoming. Self-improvement and personal growth. Self-improvement has been a persistent journey for me, a winding road filled with peaks of revelation and valleys of self-doubt. I remember the initial spark vividly, a moment when I realized that staying stagnant was not an option. It was more than just a desire to be better. It was a need, deeply woven into my psyche. I wanted to evolve, but the path wasn't immediately clear. At the core of my transformation were the big 5 personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These traits, I found, were like lenses through which I could view my strengths and weaknesses. They became essential guides, helping me to understand myself better and plot a course for growth. Openness allowed me to embrace new experiences and ideas. I started reading books on topics I had previously ignored and even took up painting, something I had always dismissed as beyond my grasp. This trait opened doors to creativity and intellectual curiosity that I never knew existed within me. Conscientiousness was the backbone of my goal-setting endeavors. I learned to create specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART goals. This approach transformed my vague wishes into concrete plans. Each small step, tracked in journals and celebrated, became a building block of my larger objectives. Extroversion, a trait that didn't come naturally to me, demanded courage. I pushed myself to network, attend social events, and engage more deeply with people. The initial discomfort gradually gave way to enriching interactions, and I found myself energized by the human connections I formed. Agreeableness taught me the value of empathy and cooperation. Listening actively to others, understanding their perspectives, and collaborating effectively began to shape my interpersonal relationships positively. This trait helped me build a supportive network, a community that uplifted and held me accountable. Neuroticism, often perceived negatively, offered valuable lessons in emotional resilience. I learned to manage stress and anxiety, viewing them as challenges to be navigated rather than obstacles. Techniques like mindfulness and cognitive reappraisal became my tools to temper emotional volatility and foster inner peace. As these traits interwove with my daily life, the process of self-improvement became more tangible. I set goals that aligned with my refined self-understanding, focusing on areas where I could realistically grow. Achieving these goals, no matter how small, fueled my sense of accomplishment and propelled me forward. However, this journey hasn't been without its struggles. There were times when setbacks threatened to derail my progress, moments when the gap between my aspirations and reality seemed insurmountable. But it was in these moments of tension that I discovered resilience. The setbacks became lessons, each one shaping a more refined, more capable version of myself. With every challenge overcome, the horizon of what I believed possible expanded. Finding harmony within the Big Five. The first time I heard about the Big Five personality traits, I dismissed them as just another set of labels people use to define themselves. Little did I know, these 5 dimensions, openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, would become a guiding compass in my quest for inner balance. Living in a bustling city, it's easy to get caught up in the chaos. My mornings began with the screeching of subway trains and ended with the humming nightlife outside my apartment. With each passing day, I felt my identity splinter into fragments, each trying to adapt to an ever-changing environment. It wasn't until I took time to introspect that I realized the importance of understanding my own personality dimensions. Openness, for instance, had always been my strong suit. I thrived on creativity and new experiences, whether it was exploring an unfamiliar alleyway for hidden treasures or delving into uncharted intellectual territories. But this trait often clashed with my tendencies toward conscientiousness. My inherent need for order and responsibility was frequently overridden by a spur-of-the-moment creative venture. The inconsistency gnawed at my sense of fulfillment, leaving me perpetually dissatisfied. It was extraversion, and its counterpart, introversion, that puzzled me the most. I always considered myself an outgoing person, someone who drew energy from social interactions. Yet, there were times when solitude whispered promises of peace and reflection. The tug-of-war between wanting to be surrounded by people and craving time alone became a source of internal conflict, one I couldn't easily resolve. Agreeableness posed its own set of challenges. I prided myself on being empathetic and cooperative, always willing to lend a hand or an ear. But there were moments when this trait felt more like a curse than a blessing. Helping others often came at the expense of my own needs, making it hard to assert my boundaries. The most elusive of them all was neuroticism. Although I tried to maintain a facade of calm and resilience, I couldn't deny the undercurrents of anxiety and insecurity that ran beneath the surface. It was as if I were navigating between storms, always anticipating the next wave of worry or doubt. As months turned into years, I began a journey towards understanding and embracing these dimensions fully. I realized that harmony didn't mean eliminating discord, but integrating it. I started by acknowledging my strengths and weaknesses within each trait, accepting that they were all parts of a single, complex whole. I found balance by setting aside dedicated time for creative endeavors, ensuring they didn't disrupt my structured routines. I learned to alternate between social gatherings and quiet nights in, understanding that both were essential for my well-being. Establishing clear boundaries allowed me to be agreeable without self-sacrificing. And most importantly, I practiced mindfulness to manage my neurotic tendencies, observing my feelings without letting them dictate my actions. The personal satisfaction that emerged from this journey was unlike any I'd ever known. It wasn't just about feeling balanced, it was about realizing that I could be the architect of my own inner harmony. And in that realization lay the profound truth that we all possess the tools to find peace within our multifaceted selves. Chapter 11. Overcoming Challenges with the Big Five. Adversity and Resilience. Adversity has a curious way of sneaking up on you when you least expect it. As I sat in my cramped apartment, staring at the eviction notice on my kitchen table, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of despair. It was only a few months ago that I had a stable job and a promising career ahead of me. But now, with the company's unexpected closure, it felt as though my world had been turned upside down. My mind drifted back to a conversation I had with my grandfather when I was younger. He always said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice." Those words resonated with me as I picked up the phone to call my old friend, Sarah. Her voice was a comforting reminder of the connections I still had, even when everything seemed to be falling apart. She listened patiently as I poured out my frustrations, and then, with a calm and steady voice, she reminded me of the resilience I had shown in the past. The next morning, I made a decision. Instead of letting adversity victimize me, I decided to face it head-on. I began searching for new job opportunities, applying to every position I could find. I tailored my resume and networked relentlessly. It was a grueling process, but with each rejection email, I felt a small spark of persistence growing inside me. The weeks turned into months, and just when I was about to lose hope, I received a call from a company I had almost forgotten about. The interview went smoothly, and a week later, I was offered the job. Of course, securing a new job didn't mean my troubles were over. There were still debts to pay and emotional scars to heal. However, the experience taught me a valuable lesson about resilience. I realized that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about pushing forward, even when the odds are against you. It's about finding that inner strength and using it to navigate the storms that life throws your way. Over time, I've come to understand that personality traits play a significant role in how we handle adversity. My natural optimism and determination were crucial in helping me stay focused on the end goal, even when the path seemed insurmountable. But I've also learned that resilience is a skill that can be cultivated. It's about developing a mindset that embraces challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than insurmountable obstacles. Looking back, I can see that every setback was a stepping stone to something greater. The challenges I faced forced me to dig deep and discover strengths I didn't know I had. And in those moments of uncertainty, I found a resilience that has since become a guiding force in my life. It's a reminder that no matter how dark the days may seem, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, waiting for those willing to journey towards it. Perseverance and conscientiousness. Years ago, I was just a young, inexperienced lad standing in front of an enormous mountain of challenges. Armed with nothing but my ambition and an ache in my heart, I took my first unsteady steps toward the summit. What I quickly discovered was that the path to success is neither straight nor smooth. It twists, turns, and sometimes seems impossible to conquer. Yet, in my heart, I held an unwavering belief that conscientious effort would pay off, even when the odds seemed stacked against me. I remember vividly the time I decided to take on a project that everyone deemed too difficult. It was about designing a sustainable system for our small village's water supply, a task that had defeated many seasoned engineers. "But you're not an engineer," people would say, their doubt piercing through the little confidence I had. Nevertheless, I couldn't sit idle when my community was in need. So, I delved into the world of hydrodynamics and sustainable technology, spending countless nights buried in books and research papers. My desk was littered with sketches, calculations, and failed prototypes. Each failure stung, yet each one also taught me invaluable lessons. There were moments so utterly defeating that I questioned my sanity. But every morning, I would rise, renew my resolve, and tackle the problems head-on. Weeks turned into months, and my perseverance began to bear fruit. On one memorable day, I managed to build a prototype that worked seamlessly. It wasn't perfect, but it was a monumental step forward. The sheer joy and relief that washed over me were indescribable. But more importantly, I realized that this was a testament to the power of diligence and conscientiousness. As I presented the working model to the village council, I felt a mixture of pride and exhaustion. The council members, initially skeptical, couldn't hide their astonishment as the water flowed effortlessly through the system. It was as if a collective breath was held and then released in a chorus of joyful exclamations. I had turned the tide, not through sheer talent, but through relentless, conscientious effort and an unyielding spirit. In that moment, it became profoundly clear to me: perseverance grounded in conscientiousness is an unstoppable force. The challenges we face are not walls but hurdles, meant to be scaled through persistent effort and thoughtful consideration. And though the road may be fraught with setbacks, the summit is always within reach for those who refuse to give up. So when you're faced with your mountain, remember this: you don't need to be the strongest or the smartest to conquer it. Be conscientious, be relentless, and let your perseverance carve out the path to success. Because, in the end, it's those who keep pushing forward that win the climb. Embracing change with openness. Standing at the crossroads of my life, I realized how often change had been the main thread weaving the fabric of my journey. I had always prided myself on being open-minded, a trait that eventually turned into my greatest ally. The early years were about resisting change, gripping tightly onto the comfort of familiarity. Yet, an internal shift began with a single, transformative experience. It all began when I decided to move to a bustling city halfway across the world, leaving behind a serene, predictable life. My intention was clear: to embrace change in its entirety and see what lay beyond my comfort zone. The initial days were a whirlwind of confusion, culture shock, and an unsettling feeling of being lost. But with each passing day, my openness began to take root. I started exploring the city, its hidden alleys and vibrant markets, each encounter peeling away the layers of my limited perspectives. One poignant moment etched in my mind was when I joined a local community project. The diversity of people I met was astounding: different backgrounds, varied opinions, and unique stories. Immersing myself in their lives, I felt my mindset expanding. Ideas and beliefs I held for years started to morph. I found myself more accepting, less judgmental. This newfound openness unlocked doors I never knew existed, leading to opportunities and friendships that enriched my life in unimaginable ways. The most significant change happened within. By embracing the uncertainty and challenges head-on, I discovered a resilient, more adaptable version of myself. The same open-mindedness that welcomed diverse opinions now allowed me to tackle unexpected life events with a composed, solution-oriented approach. Instead of seeing change as an adversary, I began perceiving it as a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. Each challenge faced, each hurdle crossed, became a testimony to the power of openness. Reflecting on these experiences, I realized that being open to change radically altered the course of my life. It's not just about the tangible outcomes, the new city, the friends, or the projects, but the internal journey of self-evolution. Embracing change with an open heart brought with it a profound sense of contentment, the kind that stems from knowing you are not confined by rigid boundaries, but free to explore infinite possibilities. As the city lights flickered outside my window one quiet evening, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey so far. I had learned that embracing change was not merely about accepting new circumstances, but transforming oneself to rise to the occasion. With each step forward, I carried the belief that openness could turn uncertainties into adventures, making life a magnificent tapestry woven with the threads of change. Chapter 12: Exploring Cultural Influences on Personality. Diversity and openness. As I stepped into the bustling coffee shop, the aroma of freshly ground beans enveloped me, evoking a sense of comfort and familiarity. It was my usual spot, a cozy nook by the window where streams of morning sunlight created a warm, inviting glow. I savored these tranquil moments before the day unfolded, sipping my latte while the world outside surged forward in its ceaseless rush. But today was different. Today, I found myself drawn into an unexpected conversation that would alter my perspective in the most profound ways. It began innocuously enough. A woman, a stranger, took the seat opposite mine. She had an aura of quiet confidence, her demeanor both calming and intriguing. Her name was Amina, and she was from a country halfway across the globe that I had only read about in travel magazines. Our conversation flowed seamlessly from casual pleasantries to more intimate details about our lives, our dreams, and our cultural backgrounds. I found myself enchanted by her stories, rich with traditions and experiences so different from my own. In the weeks that followed, Amina and I met regularly, each encounter peeling away layers of unfamiliarity and replacing them with a growing appreciation for our differences. She introduced me to her favorite foods, spicy and aromatic dishes that danced on my taste buds in ways I had never imagined. In turn, I shared my love for jazz music, watching her eyes light up as she experienced its soulful rhythms for the first time. Our friendship became a tapestry of shared experiences, woven from threads of diverse traditions and newfound understandings. Through Amina, I began attending cultural festivals and community gatherings that I previously would have overlooked or ignored. Each event was an eye-opening experience, showcasing the kaleidoscope of human expression through music, dance, art, and cuisine. I was amazed by the beauty of diversity, something that I had once naively seen as a mere concept, but now appreciated as a living, breathing force that enriched our world. My openness to these new experiences and perspectives began to influence my daily interactions. In my workplace, I became an advocate for inclusivity, encouraging colleagues to embrace diverse viewpoints and fostering an environment where everyone felt valued and heard. This shift in attitude not only enhanced our team's creativity and problem-solving abilities, but also created a deeper sense of belonging among us all. However, embracing diversity and openness was not without its challenges. I faced moments of discomfort, instances when confronting my unconscious biases required honest self-reflection and a willingness to grow beyond ingrained beliefs. One such moment occurred during a heated discussion about social justice with a colleague. Our viewpoints clashed, and the conversation grew tense. But instead of shutting down, I chose to listen, genuinely attempting to understand his perspective. It was through this exchange that we found common ground, realizing that our differing views came from a place of shared concern for justice and equality. As I journeyed further down this path of openness, I came to realize that my previous limited perspective had been a self-imposed prison, one that narrowed my view of the world and hindered my potential for growth. By embracing diversity, I unlocked doors to a richer, more compassionate existence. I understood that every story, every culture, and every individual carries intrinsic value that, when appreciated, adds to the vast mosaic of human experience. It was during one of our usual meetings, over a cup of chai, that Amina shared something that left a lasting impression on me. She said, "In understanding each other, we come to understand ourselves better. It's like finding a mirror in the most unexpected places." Her words resonated deeply, encapsulating the essence of our journey. Through our friendship, she had become that mirror for me, reflecting the limitless potential that lies in embracing diversity and openness. Cultural norms and agreeableness. The warm glow of the sunset cascaded over the bustling streets of Tokyo. The city was an intricate mosaic of tradition and modernity. As I stood at the crosswalk, observing the ocean of people waiting patiently, I felt the intricacies of cultural norms deep within my bones. Here in Japan, harmony and group cohesion were highly valued, and it was expected that one would conform to societal expectations without question. It was a stark contrast to my experiences back home in the United States, where individualism and self-expression reigned supreme. My friend Hiroshi, a soft-spoken native, epitomized Japanese agreeableness. He always put the needs of others before his own, avoiding conflict and seeking harmony in all his interactions. One evening, we found ourselves at a small, traditional izakaya, sharing stories over plates of yakitori and cups of sake. Hiroshi's eyes sparkled with genuine interest as he listened to me. Even though his own eyes drooped with the fatigue of a long day, he never once interrupted or diverted the conversation to himself. This selflessness seemed second nature to him, ingrained by the collective culture he belonged to. Such cultural norms, however, could be a double-edged sword. Living in Japan for an extended period, I noticed how often Hiroshi suppressed his own desires and opinions for the sake of social harmony. It made me wonder about the delicate balance between maintaining one's identity and conforming to collective expectations. Navigating these norms required a nuanced understanding and respect for the underlying values behind them. Weeks later, I found myself in Paris, dining with Céline, a spirited French writer. Her culture prized open debate and directness, and our conversation was marked by lively exchanges and fervent opinions. Disagreement is not disrespect, she often reminded me, challenging me on various topics ranging from literature to politics. Her assertiveness was refreshing yet intimidating, contrasting sharply with the passive agreeableness I had experienced in Japan. Navigating these cultural expectations required a level of agreeableness, but not in a one-size-fits-all manner. In Japan, my ability to listen more and speak less made me a more agreeable and culturally sensitive companion. In France, my willingness to speak my mind and engage in spirited debates earned me respect and deepened my relationships. Each culture had its own definition of agreeableness, shaped by centuries of tradition and societal values. As I traveled, I learned that cultural norms shape the manifestation of agreeableness in multifaceted ways. A simple act of politeness in one culture could be perceived as indifference in another. The key was to approach each interaction with an open mind and a willingness to adapt. Respecting different cultural expectations in relationships didn't mean compromising my own values. Rather, it was about finding the common ground where mutual respect could flourish. The twilight deepened as I strolled by the Seine, reflecting on the lessons each culture had imparted on me. The global tapestry of human experience was rich and varied, and understanding these cultural norms did not just make me more agreeable, it made me a more empathetic and engaged human being. As my journey continued, the anticipation of delving into new cultural landscapes filled me with both excitement and a sense of humility, aware that each encounter would further shape my understanding of agreeableness. The impact of environment on neuroticism. It was a sultry summer evening when I first noticed how my surroundings impacted my emotional stability. The city buzzed with life, its relentless energy pushing me to the edge of my comfort zone. As I walked through the crowded streets, the cacophony of urban sounds seemed to merge into a symphony of chaos. Each honk, shout, and tram bell rang in my ears, triggering an anxiety that tightened around my chest like an iron grip. The crowded sidewalks, the hurried pace, and the ceaseless stimuli magnified my irritability and fed my neurotic tendencies. Contrastingly, a trip to the countryside provided a starkly different experience. The serene landscapes, stretching fields, and rustling leaves offered a sanctuary for my troubled mind. The rhythmic pattern of waves lapping on the shore created a calming melody that soothed my tangled nerves. The crisp air, untainted by urban pollution, allowed me to breathe deeply and evenly, bringing a sense of stability and tranquility that felt almost foreign after the intense urban anxiety. Here, among the tranquil embrace of nature, my neurotic tendencies seemed to shrink into insignificance. I recalled another striking instance during a stressful period at work. The confined cubicles, relentless deadlines, and incessant hum of computers became a breeding ground for my rising neuroticism. Constantly under pressure and surrounded by the stress of others, my emotional equilibrium shattered frequently. It was there, amidst the artificial lighting and the sterile atmosphere, that I understood the profound impact of a high-stress environment on my emotional well-being. The sense of being trapped in a relentless cycle exacerbated my feelings of restlessness and anxiety. In stark contrast, my visit to a remote village was a revelation. Nestled in rolling hills, the village's simplicity and slow pace were a balm for my overwrought mind. The villagers' warm smiles and the absence of digital distractions created an atmosphere of genuine connection and peace. Walking through the cobblestone streets, I felt my usual jitteriness dissolve, replaced by a steady calm. The environment, devoid of the typical stresses of modern life, allowed me to reclaim a sense of inner peace, proving just how influential a nurturing setting could be on one's emotional state. It became evident to me that our surroundings possess a profound ability to shape our emotional health, particularly for those predisposed to neurotic tendencies. Urban settings, with their constant barrage of sensory inputs and high stress, seem to amplify my anxiety. Conversely, natural environments, with their inherent calmness and simplicity, had a remarkable capacity to heal and stabilize. Personal experiences like mine underscore the importance of recognizing and, where possible, choosing environments that support emotional well-being. Such choices can make a significant difference in maintaining a balanced and healthy state of mind. Chapter 13: The Big Five and Mental Health. Understanding personality disorders. I had always been fascinated with the complexities of the human mind, but it wasn't until I delved into the world of personality disorders that I fully grasped just how intricate and varied our mental landscapes can be. My journey began with researching the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These traits, often referred to as ocean, shape our thoughts, behaviors, and interactions in profound ways. But what happens when these traits veer into the extreme, creating patterns that disrupt our lives and relationships? Consider borderline personality disorder, BPD, for instance. People with BPD often exhibit heightened levels of neuroticism, experiencing intense emotions and instability in their relationships and self-image. Their world is a whirlwind of passionate highs and devastating lows, leaving them feeling constantly on edge and misunderstood. It's not just a matter of being moody, it's a deep-seated turmoil that colors every aspect of their existence. Understanding this stark reality helps foster empathy and provides a glimpse into the challenges faced by those living with BPD. On the flip side, antisocial personality disorder often correlates with low agreeableness and conscientiousness. Individuals with this disorder may exhibit a disregard for others' feelings, a lack of remorse after hurting someone, and a tendency to manipulate or deceive. It's a troubling blend of traits that can lead to harmful actions, often resulting in broken relationships and brushes with the law. Recognizing these patterns is crucial for early intervention and developing effective strategies to manage and mitigate these behaviors. Narcissistic personality disorder, another complex condition, is typically characterized by high extraversion and low agreeableness. Those with this disorder may have an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. They might come across as charming and confident, yet their relationships often suffer due to their overwhelming need for validation and their inability to connect on a deeper, more caring level. Understanding the motivations behind these behaviors can pave the way for more compassionate and supportive approaches. Then, there's avoidant personality disorder, commonly associated with high levels of both neuroticism and introversion. People with this disorder often feel socially inhibited, inadequate, and hypersensitive to negative evaluation. It's as if they're trapped in a constant state of self-doubt and fear, making it extremely challenging to form meaningful connections. By acknowledging these struggles, we can offer better support, encouraging those affected to step out of the shadows and embrace the connections they yearn for but fear. As I continued to explore these disorders, I realized that understanding the interplay of the Big Five traits is not just academic, it's profoundly human. It's about seeing beyond the labels and recognizing the unique struggles and strengths each person brings to the table. With this knowledge, we can foster environments that are more inclusive and supportive, promoting mental health and well-being for all. In my own interactions, this newfound understanding has been transformative. I've learned to step back, listen, and approach each person with empathy and a willingness to understand their perspective. It's not always easy, and the path to improving mental health support is fraught with challenges, but every step taken in understanding is a step toward a more compassionate world. As I wrapped up my research, I couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency and hope. The more we understand, the better equipped we are to make a difference. Self-care and emotional stability. In my experience, self-care isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. It took me years to understand this, but the moment I did, my life radically shifted. I used to believe that pushing through exhaustion and suppressing my emotions was a sign of strength. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Instead, it led me down a path of burnout and emotional instability, a dark place I wouldn't wish on anyone. I recall those days vividly. Some mornings, just getting out of bed felt like an insurmountable task. My mind was a tangled web of thoughts, and my body was a wreck. That's when I realized something had to change. The first step I took toward self-care was setting boundaries. Learning to say no was empowering and liberating. It allowed me to reclaim my time and energy, dedicating it to things that truly mattered to me. One of the most significant practices I adopted was mindfulness. I started simple, with just 5 minutes of meditative breathing every morning. Gradually, those 5 minutes expanded as I began to cherish the calm and clarity it brought. Now, mindfulness and meditation are woven into the fabric of my daily routine, giving me the mental space to navigate life's challenges with a steadier hand. Journaling became another anchor for my mental health. Pouring my thoughts onto paper was therapeutic. It offered an outlet for emotions that, if left unchecked, could spiral out of control. The act of writing helped me untangle my thoughts and gain insights into my emotional well-being. Plus, it provided a safe space for self-reflection and growth. Physical activity, often overlooked, played a pivotal role in my self-care regimen. I started with short walks and progressively built up to more structured workouts. The endorphin rush post-exercise became a much-needed balm for my frazzled nerves, reinforcing the connection between physical and emotional health. Nutrition, too, demanded attention. I learned that what I put into my body affected not just my physical state, but also my mental clarity and mood. Clean eating, ample hydration, and regular meals became non-negotiables. The stability of my physical health mirrored a burgeoning stability in my emotional world. Social connections also transformed through this journey. I gravitated towards relationships that nurtured me and gently distanced myself from toxic dynamics. Surrounding myself with a supportive network of friends and family fortified my emotional resilience, providing me with a sense of belonging and love. As I pieced together these facets of self-care, my emotional stability improved exponentially. However, it's still a work in progress. I remind myself that self-care isn't a one-time fix, but a continuous journey. Each day offers an opportunity to nurture myself, to listen to what my mind and body need, and to adjust accordingly. And so, I encourage you to embark on this journey with curiosity and compassion. Experiment with what works for you, be it mindfulness, physical activity, or anything else. Everyone's path to emotional stability is unique, but with patience and persistence, you will find practices that resonate with you. Remember, self-care is an act of self-love, and you are worth every moment of it. Seeking support with the Big 5 traits. It was a warm summer afternoon when I first realized the importance of tailoring support to one's personality. Sitting in the patio of my cozy townhouse, I reflected on the multitude of ways people sought help, including my own endeavors. My journey through seeking support had been one filled with trials, errors, and occasional triumphs. I quickly discerned that a one-size-fits-all approach wasn't the most effective. Understanding the nuances of my personality traits, however, unlocked new avenues I hadn't considered before. Take, for instance, my high level of openness. Always curious, always eager to learn, I found solace in seeking out new experiences and perspectives. When I struggled with writer's block, conventional advice such as sticking to a rigid schedule didn't work for me. Instead, brainstorming sessions with fellow creatives, engaging in lively debates, and exposing myself to various forms of art rejuvenated my spirit. Once, an impromptu visit to a contemporary art gallery sparked an idea that eventually flourished into a full-fledged story. These tailored, openness-oriented supports catered to my inner artist and reignited my passion during times of stagnation. For my friend Jacob, high in conscientiousness, his approach couldn't be more different. Jacob's meticulous nature craved structure and order. When he grappled with balancing work and life, the key for him was detailed planning. He derived immense benefit from productivity apps and sought advice from individuals with a knack for discipline. Our conversations often drifted to how different planning techniques helped him stay on track. Jacob's systematic approach to seeking support ensured he maintained his occupational goals without feeling overwhelmed, which in turn inspired me to adopt a bit of his structured diligence in my chaotic processes. Then there was Elena, whose high extraversion made her the life of every social gathering. But beneath that vibrant exterior, she occasionally felt isolated when facing personal challenges. Elena thrived on support that involved communal activities, therapy groups, and sincere conversations with her extensive network of friends and family. I remember an occasion when a group hiking trip transformed from a physical excursion into an unexpected emotional haven. Sharing stories around a campfire, she found support in the collective empathy and camaraderie, which was precisely what she needed during a tough period. Through these different lenses, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, it became clear. Aligning support methods with one's intrinsic traits not only felt more natural, but also rendered the support more effective. The key rested in recognizing these unique needs and proactively seeking corresponding avenues of assistance. What worked wonders for me might not suffice for Jacob or Elena, and vice versa. This realization was powerful, reshaping how I approached challenges and interacted with the world. But curiosity gnawed at me. What about the other dimensions of the Big Five personality traits? Were there more stories, more insights to uncover? The warm summer breeze carried my thoughts to the far horizon, where new tales of support and personal growth awaited, each uniquely tied to the essence of individual personalities. Just as the sun dipped below the skyline, I wondered whose story I would unravel next, and how their personalized support journey would intertwine with my own evolving narrative. Chapter 14. Embracing Individuality Through the Big Five. Celebrating Diversity in Personality. I found myself sitting in our favorite coffee shop, nursing a warm cup of freshly brewed coffee. As I gazed around the room, I couldn't help but notice the unique blend of personalities that filled the space. To my right, a quiet woman in her 40s was absorbed in a thick novel, her expression a symphony of emotions with each turn of the page. To my left, a trio of young friends were sharing an animated conversation, punctuated with bursts of laughter and expressive gestures. And in the corner, a barista with an easygoing demeanor and a ready smile served each customer with genuine warmth. The contrast was striking and beautiful. My mind drifted to my own circle of friends. There was Clara, whose analytical mind and meticulous attention to detail made her the go-to person for any complex problem. Her precision sometimes came across as rigidity, but those who knew her understood the empathy and creativity that lay beneath her calculated exterior. Then there was Max, the life of any gathering. His exuberant energy and natural charm made everyone gravitate towards him. Some saw his relentless optimism as naive, but we recognized it as a gift, a light that brightened our darkest days. We also had Noah, a quiet and introspective soul who preferred solitary walks in the park to loud parties. His calm and contemplative nature made him an excellent listener, and his insights were often profound. His introversion was sometimes mistaken for aloofness, but we saw it as a well of strength, a serene counterbalance to Max's enthusiasm. And let's not forget Mila, whose empathetic heart and nurturing spirit made her the emotional glue that held us all together. Her sensitivity sometimes led her to be overwhelmed, but it also allowed her to connect deeply with everyone she met. As I sipped my coffee, I realized how our diverse personalities complemented one another perfectly. Each friend brought something irreplaceable to the table, creating a rich tapestry of experiences, perspectives, and emotions. It was like an orchestra where each instrument, though distinct, played in harmony to create a beautiful symphony. Clara's precision, Max's charisma, Noah's tranquility, and Mila's compassion combined to form an intricate, living narrative. This recognition was not confined to personal relationships alone. I began to see it in every interaction, every passing stranger. The diversity in personalities was a testament to the vast spectrum of human experience. It was a reminder that every trait combination, no matter how unconventional, added depth and color to our collective existence. I felt a deep appreciation for the variety of personalities around me, a mosaic of human possibility that made our world richer and more vibrant. Reflecting on this, I thought about how often society tries to categorize and simplify our identities, creating neat boxes where there should be fluidity. But true beauty lies in the imperfections and the nuances that define us. Each person I met was an entire universe of traits, experiences, and emotions, a universe that could never be fully understood or appreciated in a single glance. It made me realize the importance of celebrating, rather than merely tolerating, the uniqueness in each of us. As I finished my coffee and prepared to leave the shop, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. In a world that sometimes seems to crave uniformity, it was up to each of us to recognize and cherish the diverse colors of human nature. It was a silent vow I made to myself, to approach each interaction with an open heart and an appreciative mind, to look beyond the surface and discover the stories that make us who we are. By doing so, I hope to be a part of a more inclusive and understanding world, one that truly values the richness of our individual yet interconnected journeys. Empowering personal expression. For a long time, I struggled with the idea of fitting into predetermined mold society had set for me. Growing up in a conservative town meant that deviations from the norm were often met with skepticism at best, and outright shunning at worst. Little by little, I learned to hide the more unique aspects of myself, thinking that conforming was easier than standing out. It wasn't until college that I discovered the liberating power of authenticity. I had enrolled in a psychology class that focused on the Big 5 personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The professor emphasized that each trait existed on a spectrum, and that our unique combinations shaped who we were. What struck me most was the part about openness, how willing I was to embrace new experiences, creative ideas, and, fundamentally, my true self. One vivid memory sticks out. I had signed up for an open mic poetry night on campus. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, fueled by a mix of curiosity and a desire to break free from my self-imposed shackles. I remember looking at the audience, a sea of faces filled with both friends and strangers, and feeling a kind of vulnerability I had never experienced before. Reading my poem aloud, words that had simmered within me for years, was electrifying. For the first time, I felt heard for who I genuinely was. And the response was overwhelming. People approached me afterward, sharing their own stories of self-repression and unlocking a part of themselves they'd kept hidden. It was then that I grasped the profound impact of self-expression, not just on oneself, but on others too. By being authentic, we give permission to those around us to do the same. One particular friend, Emma, confided in me that she harbored a passion for painting. She had always kept it under wraps, fearing that public acknowledgement would somehow diminish its value. Inspired by my poetry reading, she decided to share her art at the next campus exhibition. The reaction was similar to what I'd experienced, a wave of appreciation and newfound connections. This wave of mutual revelation wasn't limited to the arts. A classmate, Raj, admitted he'd been reluctant to take a leadership role in student government because he didn't fit the archetypal leader profile. Armed with new self-awareness, he embraced his unique traits, his penchant for empathy and listening. He became one of the most effective leaders our student body had ever seen. The most striking realization was that authenticity wasn't a solitary journey. It became a communal experience. It was a beacon, illuminating the path for others. By daring to express the genuine parts of ourselves, we offered others a mirror to reflect their own hidden truths. The notion of self-expression through the lens of the Big Five taught me that every facet of our personality contributes to our overall uniqueness. Embracing all parts of oneself, both strengths and vulnerabilities, creates a more balanced, fulfilled life. As I stand here today, encouraging others to step into their authentic selves, I realize that our individual expressions are like ripples in a pond, each one influencing and expanding the reach of the next. And so, I urge you to consider, is there a part of yourself that you've been holding back? What would your life look like if you allowed that hidden aspect to surface? Maybe you'd find connections in the most unexpected places, or perhaps you'd inspire someone else to unveil their truest self. The journey of self-expression is ongoing. Today, I write to you not just as a narrator of my own story, but as a companion in yours. Let's explore these uncharted territories together, embracing every twist and turn. After all, in the end, it's our authentic selves that make the journey worthwhile. The intersection of identity and the Big Five traits. There was a time in my life when I thought I knew exactly who I was. I operated under the belief that identity was a static feature, something we inherited and carried with us, immune to change. But as the years passed and experiences accumulated, I began to notice subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, shifts in how I perceived myself. What struck me the hardest was realizing how the core of who I am, my identity, seemed intricately tied to the Big Five personality traits: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These traits weren't just elements on a psychological test. They were the lenses shaping my world. As a child, I was the textbook definition of an extrovert. I thrived in social settings, lavishing in the energy of the crowd. The thrill of new interactions was my adrenaline, and it wasn't until my early 20s that I began to see this trait morph. Experiences of betrayal and professional backstabbing turned me inward, making me question my need for constant external validation. I stayed indoors more, learned to enjoy solitude, and found solace in my thoughts. It was this shift that taught me how transient the traits could be, making me wonder, who am I without them? Or rather, who am I when they evolve? Conscientiousness, however, was the trait that forced me to confront the core values I held. Growing up in a family that valued diligence, I adhered to strict schedules and set goals with almost obsessive precision. I thought discipline was synonymous with worthiness. But life threw its curveballs. An unexpected illness and a shattered relationship left me grappling with chaos. My once orderly world unraveled, making me realize that flexibility, even within rigidity, was essential to my identity. I started embracing spontaneity, understanding that being conscientious also meant being kind to oneself when plans fell apart. Openness to experience was something I always prided myself on, a marker of my curiosity and adventurous spirit. But this trait was a double-edged sword. My willingness to explore unconventional paths often left me in murky waters, sometimes emotionally and financially drained. Yet, it was this very openness that allowed me to discover passions I didn't know existed, leading me on a journey of self-discovery that was as rewarding as it was tumultuous. In those moments, I learned that my identity wasn't about the constancy of traits, but the balance between risk and reward, adventure and safety. Agreeableness had always come naturally to me. I was the peacemaker, the one who avoided conflicts at all costs. My identity was built around being liked and accepted. But the more I chose to stay agreeable, the more I found myself suppressing my true opinions and desires. It led to an inner conflict that made me question whether being agreeable was a trait I truly valued or just a survival mechanism. Over time, I realized that genuine relationships flourished not from constant agreement, but from authenticity and boundaries. This epiphany reshaped my perception of agreeableness, embedding a deeper sense of integrity in my identity. Then there's neuroticism, the trait I battled with the most. The heightened sensitivity to negative emotion was like a storm cloud that never fully dissipated. I was hyper-aware of my anxieties and fears, often feeling trapped by them. Yet, these very storms taught me resilience. Facing my neurotic tendencies head-on forced me to develop coping mechanisms, turning vulnerability into strength. My identity became intertwined with the struggle, but rather than viewing it as a handicap, I began to see it as a testament to my emotional depth and fortitude. Reflecting on these evolving traits made me understand that identity is not a static prisoner of predefined characteristics. Instead, it is a dynamic interplay of these traits, constantly influenced by our choices, experiences, and the values we hold dear. The realization was liberating and terrifying in equal measure. If identity is ever-changing, then who am I really? The answer, I believe, lies not in the traits themselves, but in how we navigate the shifts they engender, how we reconcile the person we were with the person we are becoming. It's a constant negotiation, a dance between past and future. At the core of it, perhaps, lies a singular truth. Identity, like the big five traits, is fluid, adapting to the rhythm of life's ever-changing melody. And therein, I found a sense of peace, knowing that rather than being constrained by traits, I was free to evolve, to grow, and to redefine who I am, moment by moment. Chapter 15: The Future of Personality Research. Innovations in Personality Studies. Gazing into the intricate world of personality research often feels like peering through a kaleidoscope, where each turn reveals new nuances and subtleties. The traditional Big Five model, Openness, Conscientiousness, Extraversion, Agreeableness, and Neuroticism, has been a sturdy backbone for understanding the spectrum of human traits. However, recent innovations have added vivid splashes of color to this already compelling framework. One of the most exhilarating advancements has been the incorporation of sophisticated machine learning algorithms. These algorithms analyze vast datasets, picking out patterns we might never have seen before. It's astonishing to consider how these digital minds can identify faint correlations between aspects of personality and life outcomes that are practically invisible to the human eye. Imagine a scenario where a computer program can predict your job satisfaction or relationship compatibility based purely on your digital footprint. That might sound like science fiction, but it's becoming more plausible each day as researchers leverage artificial intelligence to dive deeper into personality analytics. The precision of these algorithms isn't merely academic, it's practical, providing insights that can genuinely enhance people's lives. Another groundbreaking feature is the integration of neuroscience. Mapping the brain's activity, researchers have started connecting the dots between neural pathways and the Big Five traits. This neurobiological approach brings a level of tangibility to personality that was previously out of reach. For instance, they found patterns of activation in the prefrontal cortex that correspond with high levels of conscientiousness, while variations in the amygdala might explain fluctuations in neuroticism. But this isn't just about static brain scans. It's about observing how these brain areas light up in real time when people make decisions or face emotional challenges. The marriage of neuroscience and personality theory opens doors to targeted interventions, be it through cognitive behavioral strategies or even pharmacological aids, that could help tune those neural circuits for better personal outcomes. Yet another leap forward comes from the realm of environmental psychology. It's fascinating to see how our surroundings interact with our personalities in ways that can be both subtle and profound. Recent studies suggest that our physical environment, whether urban or rural, cluttered or minimalist, can significantly sway our levels of extraversion or neuroticism. This environmental feedback loop was an underappreciated piece of the puzzle until these new studies shone a spotlight on it. I had the good fortune to attend a seminar where a leading researcher shared their work on the dynamic interplay between personality traits and environmental factors. They demonstrated, with compelling evidence, how people could actively shape their spaces to cultivate desired personality attributes. I was enthralled by the thought that you could tailor your home or office to foster greater creativity and openness or to maintain a calmer, more organized approach to life. As these innovations continue to unfold, one can't help but marvel at the potential applications. From personalized education plans that cater to an individual's unique personality profile to customized mental health strategies, the future of personality research is brimming with possibilities. Each discovery not only enriches our theoretical grasp of human nature, but also equips us with practical tools to navigate the complexities of our lives more effectively. This journey through the evolving landscape of personality studies leaves me both enlightened and eager for more. With every new finding, we peel back a layer of the human psyche, revealing the intricate tapestry that makes each of us who we are. And as we stand at the cusp of these advances, the excitement is palpable. What other hidden facets of our personalities might we uncover next? The tension and anticipation are as thick as the chapters yet unwritten in the grand narrative of personality research. Applying the Big Five in society. It was a warm afternoon in the small town of Brooksville, the kind of day that makes you believe people are inherently kind and good. As I sipped my coffee at the local diner, I couldn't help but recollect those countless discussions about the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, and how they manifest in our daily lives. The diner was buzzing with conversations, each an intricate dance of these traits at play. It struck me how these five facets could shape one's interactions within the educational sphere. Take Sarah, for instance, a high school teacher with an exceptional level of conscientiousness. Her meticulous lesson plans and structured classroom environment left no room for chaos. Her students thrived on the predictability she offered, which was so crucial, especially for those struggling with attention disorders. Conversely, Mr. Allen, the music teacher, was the embodiment of openness. His eclectic mix of teaching methods drew out creativity in his students, encouraging even the shyest of them to take risks and express themselves. In Sarah's world, structure reigned supreme, while in Mr. Allen's, fluidity was key. Both showed how distinct traits could address the diverse needs of students and foster a rich learning environment. In the corporate realm, the Big Five play a significant role in shaping workplace dynamics. My own experiences flashed vividly before me: the reserved finance guy whose neuroticism kept our budget on track, or the extrovert sales lead, Kim, whose infectious energy was instrumental in client meetings. Our team was a tapestry woven with threads of individual personalities, each complementing the other. I remember a particular incident where Kim's agreeableness and diplomacy saved a critical partnership, navigating choppy waters with her remarkable interpersonal skills. Community settings are yet another stage where the Big Five traits profoundly influence interactions. I recall the town meeting where everyone voiced their concerns about the new zoning laws. The agreeable nature of our mayor smoothed the rough edges of the heated debate, fostering a productive dialogue. Meanwhile, the openness trait in Claire, our local librarian, spearheaded community programs embracing diversity and cultural exchange. It was a moment of revelation, seeing how different traits contributed to the common good. However, societal applications of the Big Five are not always seamless. Differences can lead to friction. I remember a community garden project where a clash between a highly conscientious leader and more flexible volunteers nearly derailed our efforts. The rigid schedules and stringent rules stifled creativity, causing frustration. It was only when each side recognized and valued the other's traits that we found a harmonious balance. This blend of order and improvisation led to one of the most successful community initiatives we'd ever seen. As the sun began to set, I closed my notebook, contemplating the intricate interplay of these personality traits in our everyday lives. The Big Five weren't just abstract concepts. They were living, breathing parts of our collective experience, shaping societies in ways we often overlook. From classrooms to boardrooms, and town halls to community gardens, these traits informed every interaction, every decision, every step forward. Understanding and appreciating these differences could lead to more cohesive, empathetic, and effective communities. The evolution of personality science. Imagine traveling back to the early 19th century. The room is gaslit, a musty aroma fills the air, and the faces around me glow with intellectual curiosity. It's in this very setting that Franz Joseph Gall, clad in a formal frock coat, presents his theories on phrenology. He believed that the bumps on a person's skull could reveal secrets of their character and mental faculties. It was an audacious idea, one that sparked both excitement and skepticism. Little did we know that this would be one of the earliest, albeit flawed, steps towards understanding human personality scientifically. Fast forward to the 20th century, where the intellectual landscape had dramatically transformed. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory hit the scene with formidable force. He introduced concepts of the ID, ego, and superego, shifting the focus from physical skull structures to the abstract workings of the mind. Freud's theories, although controversial, laid the groundwork for understanding the deep-seated elements of personality and behavior. I recall reading The Interpretation of Dreams, and thinking, how stirring it must have been to explore the labyrinth of the unconscious. Parallel to Freud, Carl Jung and Alfred Adler emerged, offering alternative perspectives. Jung expanded the concept of the unconscious with his theories on archetypes and collective unconscious. Adler brought forth the idea of the inferiority complex, arguing that our responses to perceived weaknesses shape our personalities. These ideas sparked fervent debates in academic circles, and continued to steer the evolution of personality science towards deeper and more nuanced inquiries. By mid-century, the narrative shifted once again. The advent of behaviorism, championed by B.F. Skinner, sought to study personality through observable and measurable behavior, emphasizing environmental influences over internal thoughts and feelings. It felt like the world of psychology had swung dramatically, from the internal musings of Freud to the stark external observations of Skinner. However, the most groundbreaking development came with the conceptualization and empirical validation of what we now know as the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. This model synthesized decades of previous theory and research, offering a comprehensive yet accessible framework for understanding personality. It marked an era of consensus and refinement, as researchers globally began to embrace and build upon these five dimensions. The Big Five didn't just appear out of thin air. They were the culmination of robust statistical analyses and rigorous empirical studies. Names like Louis Goldberg, Paul Costa, and Robert McCrae are etched into the annals of personality psychology for their contributions. Their extensive work utilizing factor analysis revealed that human personality could indeed be distilled into these core dimensions, offering an elegant and unifying framework for researchers and practitioners alike. In recent years, technological advancements and cross-cultural studies have further enriched our understanding of the Big Five. Personality research has moved beyond Western-centric samples, revealing fascinating variations and consistencies across diverse cultures. Cutting-edge methodologies, such as neuroimaging and genetic studies, hint at the biological underpinnings of these traits, suggesting an interplay of nature and nurture more intricate than our predecessors ever imagined. As I sit here reflecting on this evolutionary journey, it strikes me how each era, each thinker, has propelled us towards deeper understanding. The terrain of personality science is vast and ever-evolving. From skull bumps to brain scans, we've charted a course through speculative theories to empirically grounded models. The journey is far from over, and the end is tantalizingly out of sight. With each stride, we edge closer to comprehending the full tapestry of human personality. And it's in this ongoing quest that the true beauty of personality science lies, a mesmerizing blend of historical insights, contemporary advancements, and future possibilities. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the Big Five personality traits, unlocking your potential and understanding yourself. As we reach the end of this audiobook, we hope you have gained valuable insights into the intricate workings of personality and how it shapes every aspect of our lives. Understanding the Big Five personality traits, openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, has provided us with a powerful framework to comprehend our behaviors, emotions, and interactions. By exploring these traits, we can appreciate the diversity and complexity of human nature and recognize the strengths and challenges inherent in our own personalities. Throughout this audiobook, we have delved into the science behind these traits, examined their influence on our personal and professional lives, and offered practical strategies for personal growth and development. Whether you have discovered new ways to embrace your strengths, learned to navigate your challenges, or simply gained a deeper appreciation for the people around you, we hope this knowledge will empower you to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. Remember, self-awareness is the first step toward positive change. By understanding your unique personality profile, you can make more informed decisions, build stronger relationships, and create a life that aligns with your true self. Embrace the journey of self-discovery and continue to explore the depths of your personality with curiosity and compassion. We encourage you to keep reflecting on what you've learned, apply these insights in your daily life, and share this knowledge with others. The journey of understanding oneself is ongoing, and every step taken brings you closer to unlocking your full potential. Thank you for listening to the Big Five personality traits, unlocking your potential and understanding yourself. May your path be filled with growth, understanding, and profound self-discovery. Until next time, stay curious and mindful.